Shenxiao Immortal Sect is a peculiar sect. Yue Chen, who came through time travel, has a unique talent and carries an innate spiritual treasure, the good and evil list of all heavens, and has joined this sect. From then on, this immortal sect named after Shenxiao constantly refreshed his understanding in limits. Here, he has a beautiful confidant and a life and death brother, using the name Shenxiao to help me live forever. Chapter 1. Yuejia Village. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the third month of sunny spring, it is the time when grass grows and birds fly. On the road from Fulian town to Yuejia village, a ox cart is slowly walking on the road. As the goods have been sold, only a 16.7-year-old boy and some rice, flour, oil, and salt are sitting in the car at this time. The boy's name is Yue Chen. He is wearing semi-new blue clothes, with a small bun on his head. His skin is fair and his face is tender, but he is also quite handsome. He licked the tomatoes on sticks in his hand, and his big dark eyes narrowed with satisfaction. The driver was a middle-aged man in his late 40s, dressed in brown shorts, with a black and red face. Judging from his appearance, the boy should be a father and son. He raised the whip in his hand to make the cow walk faster, as dusk was approaching and pedestrians on the road were in a hurry to return home early to fill their hungry stomachs. The man's name is Yulin. At this moment, he was smiling and said, "Our family is lucky this time. We picked up a wind wolf, although it died, it also sold for a good price. This time, you will have the money to study. In a few days, my father will take you to Wang Xiuzai's school to have him take the exam for you. With such intelligence, I will definitely be able to succeed in my apprenticeship." He laughed heartily. "It's really dozing off to give a pillow. Watching my son grow older year by year and give birth to a lovely jade snow, I can't bear my child to work hard like my ancestors, facing the yellow soil and facing the sky. After a year, I can only make ends meet. This is still good. If I encounter a disaster year, I will have to tighten my belt and go hungry. Although it is possible to go up the mountain and hunt with one's back against the Fuli mountain, there are many wild beasts on the mountain, and strange beasts occasionally appear. Without good skills, who dares to go up the mountain? It is better to farm safely. Besides, this child is a bit strange and intelligent. If he goes to school and gets a top scorer, he will shine and change his family from then on. He has been thinking about sending his child to school these past few days, worrying about his upbringing. I really want Jinzi to be the Yuanbao." The night before, there was a strange movement on the Fuli mountain, and the screams of wild beasts kept coming one after another, occasionally mixed with the roar of demon beasts. Monsters and wild beasts are different. Wild beasts have no spirituality and only survive by instinct. Monsters, however, have already developed spirituality and obtained cultivation methods from bloodline inheritance. Although the inheritance obtained varies depending on the concentration of blood vessels, it is ultimately a journey of cultivation, and since then, the levels of life have been different and cannot be compared. The howling sound continued all night, and the ground shook incessantly, as if thousands of soldiers and horses were galloping. The people of Yuejia village at the foot of Fulian mountain also closed their doors tightly, extinguished the lights, and dared not observe. When the roaring gradually subsided at dawn, some villagers boldly opened the door to observe for a while. Seeing that there was no more movement, they went out and ran towards the village chief's house, wanting to ask the knowledgeable village chief what had happened last night. However, in just a moment, a scream of surprise was heard from the village entrance, and one after another, villagers opened their doors to see what was going on. The Yuelin family was very close to the village entrance, so he asked the whole family to stay at home and ran out with them. When he looked at the village entrance, even though he was usually calm, he couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. On the main road leading to Fulian mountain and Fulian town at the village entrance, a large number of wild animal corpses were lying on the ground, occasionally mixed with a demonic animal corpse. Seeing this situation, even the knowledgeable village chief was inexplicably shocked, trembling his lips and unable to speak for a long time. After a while, he shouted loudly, "Pick up the wild animals quickly and tidy them up, otherwise when the disturbance subsides, the smell of blood will attract other wild animals and it will be dangerous." Upon hearing him say this, the villagers rushed forward, each rushing to drag the animal's body into their homes. Yu Lin was strong and agile, and quickly snatched a corpse of a monster. This is the body of a wind wolf. The fur of the wind wolf is a good material for refining boots, which can increase movement speed. Its beast pill can refine low-level magical tools, and its beast blood can also refine spells. Its entire body is truly treasure. The villagers were moved by the wind and quickly snatched away all the animal carcasses. In this way, the Yu Lin family snatched up 1 demon beast and 3 wild beast corpses. Apart from Yue Chen's Shu Xiu, there was still a lot of surplus wealth. Finally, they could have a good new year this year. Upon hearing this, Yue Chen sighed inwardly. Since arriving in this world, he has been constantly observing. Over the years, it was easy to find out that he was currently in a dynasty he had never heard of before, the Kingdom of Feng. According to legend, there was a divine beast in the ancestors of the Phoenix Kingdom, whose body had a trace of phoenix blood. Therefore, after conquering the country, the ancestors of the Phoenix Kingdom conferred the title of Protector Divine Beast on the divine beast and named the country Phoenix Kingdom. The inheritance of the Phoenix Kingdom has been more than 800 years now, and it is unknown whether the guardian beast is still there or not. However, the abundance of birds in the Phoenix Kingdom is indeed true. He was born in Yuejia village, a small mountain village located at the foot of Fulian Mountain in Fulian Town, Linxiang County, Fenghua. It is situated in the southernmost part of Fenghua. Most of the people in Yuejia village have the surname Yu, and they have a close relationship with each other. In addition, the village head is highly respected and trusted by everyone, and there are many successful people in the village. Therefore, the villagers are harmonious. Although there are occasional arguments, they are also one of the few large villages in the vicinity. Yue Chen sighed because he had already understood that there were immortals in this world. Folk beliefs are different, and it is rumored among villagers that immortals have appeared, but no one has ever seen them, so it is only a rumor. Only Yue Chen has traveled through time, inquired from various sources, and heard many legends about immortals. According to legend, Fulian Mountain was not called this name before. The reason it was called Fulian Mountain was because one year a carp spirit appeared on the mountain. The carp spirit committed evil deeds at the foot of the mountain due to the failure of Yulongmen, but was easily subdued by passing immortals, which is why it was named Fuli Mountain by the villagers. The most important thing is that from time to time, there are monster beasts descending from Mount Fulian, which he has never heard of before, such as wolves that don't have wings but can fly, horses with horns on their heads, and so on. Only because Yuejia village is located in a remote area, with a strong folk culture and many martial artists among the villagers, can we protect the safety of the village. Yue Chen's father, Yue Chen, is a skilled warrior. And Yue Chen touched his chest. Since he was born, there has been such a mark on his chest. The shape is exactly the same as a scroll he just picked up before he died. He vividly remembers how it was during the fierce bargaining that Grandpa Mao bought this scroll from the vendor for 2 pieces. The scroll was shrouded in clouds and mist, like a fairyland, with only 5 big characters, but he didn't recognize them. In vain, he claimed to be knowledgeable, and now he was slapped in the face. He was born with an indomitable nature, but he had to figure it out, that's why he insisted on buying this scroll. However, he had only just emerged from the antique market. When he waited for the traffic lights, a luxury car crashed into him like it was out of control, and he didn't even notice the speed. At that time, the scroll in his hand was knocked off, and he was in a hurry. A mouthful of blood sprayed out, which happened to spray onto the scroll. He could clearly see that the white light on the scroll flickered and disappeared without a trace. His final consciousness was I don't know which bastard bumped into me, I'm alone, I'll take advantage of that turtle grandson. When he became more conscious, he would be in Li's stomach. Thanks to reading many novels in his previous life, he knew that a baby had a natural aura before birth, and he didn't know if it was true, so he tried to inhale it. As a result, he took a sip of amniotic fluid and almost choked him to death, almost topping the list of the most tragic time travel in history. He is said to have an indomitable nature, and it is impossible for him to sigh at his innate energy. When he calms down, I really want him to come up with a way to use the Tao Te Ching, the golden oil in the immortal martial arts literature that traverses through the ages in history. In the myths and legends of the previous life, this was created by Laozi Taiching who went west to Hanggu Pass. Mythical legends, I don't know if they are true or false, but this Tao Te Ching is indeed true. Let's give it a try and then we can talk. The Tao can be Tao, but it is extraordinary, the name can be name, but it is extraordinary. Nameless, the beginning of heaven and earth, famous, and the mother of all things. Therefore, there is often no desire to observe its wonders, there is often desire to observe its boundaries. These two things, originating from the same name but different names, are called Xian, Xian, is also Xian, the gate of all wonders. The Tao generates 1, 2, 2, 3, and all things. Yue Chen was meditating in his mother's womb, gradually entering a mysterious and ethereal realm, unaware of time day after day. When he woke up again, he was startled by a squeeze. He didn't have time to think about it, and his conditioned reflex was like pulling out, and then he got pregnant. At that time, he heard the midwife scream in shock, and the more scared he was, the more he cried. His father thought something was wrong and rushed in. The midwife shook her hands and pulled away the swaddling clothes to show her parents. She saw the baby, white and tender, with skin as smooth as cream, not wrinkled like other newborn babies. His father first rejoiced, then fixed his gaze on it. He saw a scroll on the baby's chest that seemed to be stretched out, shrouded in mist and unable to see what was painted. It felt like it was imprinted on the skin with just a touch of his hand. His mother loved her son so much that she was afraid of any bad rumors spreading. She quickly said, "My son is so unique, isn't he a fairy reincarnated?" Before his father could speak, the midwife patted her thigh and said, "Hey, don't say, how many babies have I delivered? I've never seen such a beautiful baby before. It's so strange. Is there really a history behind it?" His father calmed down and gave the midwife a big red envelope, hoping to block her mouth and not spread rumors outside to harm the child. From then on, his parents treated Yue Chen very differently and gave him a unique name. They hoped that he would rise to prominence and honor his ancestors when he grew up. Fortunately, his name was still the same as his previous life. When Yue Chen was able to freely move his arms and legs, his chest was flipping back and forth, and his skin was almost rustling, such as dripping blood, causing him to burst into tears of pain without making a name for himself. Gradually, Yue Chen no longer cared about him, let's do whatever we love. Since hearing that there are immortals in the world, Yue Chen felt like he had burned a flame in his heart, constantly wanting to have that immortal fate and embark on the path of immortality. However, Yuejia village is too remote, located south of Fenghua and adjacent to Baiming Abyss, with only Fushan Mountain towering into the clouds, located between the two, making them not facing each other. Moreover, the Baiming Abyss were too dangerous and uninhabited, resulting in the entire Linxiang County not having much hope, and Fulian Town became a barren land. After waiting for several years without seeing any trace of the immortal, Yue Chen was somewhat disappointed. This time, there was a strange change in the beasts on the Fulian Mountain, which was something he had not heard of in the past century. He couldn't help but have some expectations. Chapter 2. Heavenly Descending Immortal Fate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This Fulian Mountain is quite supernatural, and this animal movement has not happened in hundreds of years. It seems that something must have happened on the mountain, just like those protagonists who travel through time. Heavenly materials and earth treasures appeared on the mountain and were obtained by the protagonist, embarking on the path of cultivation. Yue Chen couldn't help but have some illusions. He didn't even fantasize about obtaining heavenly materials and earthly treasures. After all, he was young and had no special abilities. No one would take him up the mountain and let him search for treasures on his own. Not to mention during this special period, it was also impossible in normal times. He just thought about the novels he had read before, all about the strange movements of 100,000 mountain beasts, and then alerted the experts of the Immortal Sect to investigate the reasons. After all, although Fuyan Mountain is not large, it is also connected to the North Abyss, and there are always some heavenly and earthly treasures in the abyss. Then when the expert arrived at his small mountain village, he could catch a glimpse of the immortal's charm. If the immortal saw his unique bones and exclaimed that he was destined, wouldn't he be able to change his fate? But he waited for 2 days without seeing any trace of the immortal. Coincidentally, his father Yue Chen had just disposed of several wild animal corpses and was going to sell them in town today. So he followed his father out to see. At this moment, he heard his father say he wanted to send him to school, but he did not refute it. After all, if there were no immortal fate, there would be other ways out. He had never thought of farming, and he had never been exposed to these things in his previous life. His small body couldn't bear it. The father and son rushed slowly, and when they returned home, the sun had already set in the west. The food in the stove was ready, and they only waited for the father and son to return home before serving it to the table. At this time, there are 2 meals a day, and this evening meal is also called dinner, which is the most important meal. The food was very sumptuous. After all, the Yu Lin family was not stingy after just getting the meat for free. When the children were growing up, the Yue Chen motherly used all her skills to make a table full of delicious dishes to satisfy their cravings. Although Yuejia village is remote, it is vast and sparsely populated, with large houses built. The houses of the Yue Chen family are still newly built, with a large courtyard, a main hall, and 7 or 8 east and west wing rooms. The 3 sisters all have their own boudoirs, and Yue Chen has his own rooms as a result. However, Yuejia is still small and still sleeps with his mother. Yue Chen rubbed his bulging belly, thinking about what had happened these past 2 days and couldn't fall asleep, so he walked out of the room and strolled around the yard to digest his food. After circling around the yard a few times, I was admiring the stars in the sky and marveling at the quality of the air in a different world. Suddenly, a stream of light flashed across the sky and fell like a meteor onto the mountainside of Fushi Mountain, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. Yue Chen's heart was greatly shaken and he thought to himself, this is definitely not a meteor. If it were a meteor falling, there would definitely be movement, not silence. Isn't it true that the immortal has come? Thinking this way, he couldn't sleep anymore. He looked at the mountainside without blinking his eyes, until he didn't see anything on the mid-moon. It was only then that he reluctantly went into the room to sleep amidst Li's scolding. The next day, the sun rose high, and Yue Chen woke up in a commotion. In her ear, she could only hear third sister exclaim, "Fairy! Mom, look at someone flying in that sky." Yue Chen was so excited that he quickly got up and ran out of the door. He happened to see a sword light falling towards the village entrance. He fixed his gaze on Qing and saw that the location was the village head's house. He quickly put on his clothes, scooped water and wiped his face. He didn't care about his food and ran straight to the village chief's house. Upon arriving at the village head's house, there were not many people, as the Yue Chen family was already close to the village entrance. Although Yue Chen had delayed dressing and washing his face, it was during the busy farming season when everyone was working in the fields, and only some elderly, weak, sick, and disabled people were doing what they could at home. Therefore, Yue Chen did not come slowly. The door of the village chief's house was open, and everyone only dared to watch outside, not to enter. After all, he was a legendary immortal, whom no one had ever seen before. I don't know if the immortal is easy to get along with, and if they collide with him, they won't be able to afford it. Yue Chen is not afraid, after all, he is the core of an adult. Besides, he is not afraid of being taken away, nor is he afraid of being noticed by immortals. Moreover, this is an opportunity he eagerly anticipates, and he doesn't want to miss it like this. He leaned over to the door and perked up his ears to listen to the conversation inside. I only heard a voice from Qingyue asking, "Are you the village chief of this Yuejia village? What's going on in Fuyan Mountain this time? You have to explain it in detail." The old village chief is already an old man who knows the fate of heaven, a grandfather of Yue Chen, and his eldest grandfather has not yet come out of Wufu. At this moment, the village chief's face turned red with excitement and he looked at the man in green sitting in the hall. He was cowardly for a while before saying, "The immortal has orders, and I dare not obey them." This happened 3 nights ago, when the earth was shaking and the wild beasts on the mountain rushed outside the village but did not come into the village to eat people. The little old man also felt strange about it. The next morning, he saw that there were animal corpses everywhere, which looked like they were killing each other. It was difficult to confirm because they had not witnessed it with their own eyes. "Please forgive me, the immortal." The man in green had a handsome face and seemed to be in his early years. After a moment of contemplation, he said, "I am a true disciple of the Shenxiao Immortal Sect, Wei Wuxiang. The elders in this sect have calculated that I have had a chance on this trip, so I have been here all the way. I heard that there have been some changes in the monsters on the Fuyan Mountain, and I want to go up the mountain to investigate. The Shenxiao Immortal Sect is a famous sect, unlike the demon sect that takes care of people's lives, so you don't have to be afraid. Immortal Sect and Demon Gate. There are really immortals in this world." Yue Chen's heart was uplifted and he secretly made up his mind. "When I heard from the immortal that there was his chance here, I didn't know that he was also my chance. This may be my only chance. I must seize this opportunity and strive to be recognized and included by the immortal in order to have the hope of immortality and not waste my 2 lifetimes." With such thoughts in mind, he excitedly took another step inside. Wei Wuji looked at the black head at the door and couldn't help but laugh. This child looks like he is only 6 or 7 years old, but he doesn't want to be very brave. He is stronger than the villagers around him and is not afraid of poverty. Looking at him again, he is handsome, with sharp eyes and a hint of inspiration in his heart. With this in mind, he reached out and waved, causing Yue Chen to involuntarily fly into the room and stand in front of Wei Wuxiang. Suddenly, with this move, Yue Chen's heart was greatly shocked, and everyone outside the room also exclaimed in surprise. Coincidentally, Yu Lin hurriedly arrived and saw the immortal summon Yue Chen into the room. He was instantly anxious, afraid that the child would not understand and provoke the immortal. What should he do if he blamed him? Just as Yu Lin was about to rush into the room to plead for mercy, he suddenly heard Yue Chen's voice. It turned out that Yue Chen had suddenly been summoned into the room and was quite frightened. Just as he was feeling anxious, he looked up at Wei Wuxiang and saw that his face was gentle, with countless stars shining brightly in his eyes. With just this glance, Yue Chen was not afraid anymore. He steadied his mind and said crisply, "Young man, Yue Chen has seen the immortal. The immortal has summoned the young man inside. What is your order?" Wei Wuji gave him an appreciative glance and said, "You're such a clever kid who fits my eye. Come forward, I'll see how talented you are." After speaking, he reached out and pinched Yue Chen's wrist bone, closed his eyes and felt the sensation, then reached out to cover Yue Chen's head. After a while of exploration, he finally opened his eyes, and the brilliance in his eyes flashed away. At this moment, Wei Wuji felt great joy in his heart. Wuejia Dao Ti. This son actually carries an innate Dao Ti, and is one of the top Dao Ti. He has been practicing for thousands of miles in a day. Let's see that his divine soul is powerful and his mind is outstanding. The eldest disciple who meets this poor Dao has found a place. Although Wei Wuji may seem like a young man, he is actually almost 100 years old. However, he has achieved success in cultivation and does not show signs of aging. Moreover, at this age, he has already achieved the cultivation of refining qi and transforming gods, and is about to enter the realm of refining gods and returning to the void. He is truly talented, and among the many true disciples of the Shenxiao Immortal Sect, he is also the most beautiful. It is not surprising that the sect leader will calculate a chance for him. Yue Zhi often cultivates in the mountains and only goes out to travel when he encounters bottlenecks. However, his talent is strong and he has few bottlenecks, so he rarely goes out. At this moment, I was thinking of accepting my apprentices, and it was rare to encounter a good candidate. It was really a big girl getting on the sedan chair once, and I couldn't help feeling a bit excited. I was also afraid that if I said too well, my disciple would feel proud. So he touched his non-existent beard and said with a pretentious and profound tone, "I see that you have some qualifications, and I cannot help but feel a love for talent. Would you be willing to worship me as a teacher and join our Shenxiao Immortal Sect?" For Yue Chen, this statement was simply overjoyed. He was struggling to persuade the immortal to be accepted into his family, but it didn't take much effort to obtain it. Now it seems that he is still starving to death with courage. He didn't know that the main highlight of the word, immortal fate, was that there were so many qualified people in the world, and not everyone could embark on the path of cultivation. Even if one embarks on the path of cultivation, there are few achievements, and even fewer can reach the end. In terms of Wei Wuxiang's talent, he is already one of the best, but now he is just on the path of cultivation, far from immortality. A person who cultivates is indispensable in terms of wealth, law, and land. Only by adding some opportunities can they go further. Like him this time, if it weren't for the unusual changes in the beasts at Fulian Mountain, and also because Yue Zhi had some opportunities on this trip, he would have been sent by the sect. It was also because of his exceptional talent, courage, and wit that he was admitted to the sect. It was because of Yue Zhi's eye connection that he was brought in. Since ancient times, his master and disciple have been in the same lineage, and this is also Yue Zhi's chance. Therefore, the word fate is indescribable. The old village chief on the side thought Yue Chen was scared when he didn't speak for a long time. He quickly said, "You child, the immortal wants to take you as his disciple. It's a blessing that you can never exchange for in your lifetime. Are you so happy and foolish? Why don't you quickly doze off and learn from him?" Upon hearing these words, Yue Chen quickly regained his senses and bent his legs, bowing to the ground. "Master is here, please be worshipped by my disciples." The immortal caressed my head and gave birth to immortality. Entering the immortal sect and bowing to my master, I have the qualification to cultivate and become a guide on the path of cultivation. If there are any more opportunities, it is impossible to say that I have the potential to live forever, so I cannot help but feel less excited. Yue Zhi received a good disciple and was also pleased with himself. He quickly reached out and brushed his hand, and Yue Chen couldn't help but stand up. Yue Zhi pondered for a while, and with a flick of his right hand on the trigger finger held by his left thumb, a crystal-clear jade slip appeared in his hand. Yue Chen's eyes lit up and he thought to himself, "Storage ring. Unfortunately, this thing must be very precious, otherwise it would be so convenient to have it." Chapter 3. Teaching Methods. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yue Zhi received a good disciple, and while feeling happy in his heart, he decided to pass on the cultivation method. At this moment, he took out a jade slip and placed it on Yue Chen's forehead, shouting, "Concentrate and calm. I will pass on your cultivation methods and key knowledge to you, master." Upon hearing this, Yue Chen quickly restrained his mind and dared not daydream anymore. He closed his eyes and accepted the inheritance of the jade slips. Suddenly, he felt a dizzy and bloated feeling, and slowly calmed down. He realized that a magic spell called Shenxiao Zonggang and a book called Shenxiao Zi had appeared in his mind. It was strange to say that he had not learned these words, and it was as if they were imprinted in his mind, so he didn't need to learn them anymore. At this moment, he didn't have time to read it carefully. He only heard Wei Wuxiang say, I still need to go to the Fulian mountain for a walk. You should go home and wait for a few days, and then practice to see if you can get started. After a few days, I will come back to pick you up and return to the sect. Yue Chen hurriedly said, Yes, master. The disciple lives not far from the village entrance. Why don't master rest at the disciple's house first before going to the Fulian mountain? Just as he had just started his apprenticeship, Yue Chen developed some dependence on this master. Wei Wuji waved his hand and said, No, I feel a sense of belonging as a teacher. I'll finish my tasks earlier and leave earlier. I'll go as a teacher. After speaking, he left the door of the house. With a flick of his sleeve, he couldn't see how he was pinching the key. Suddenly, he was 3 feet off the ground, and a red-orange sword light appeared at his feet, rising directly towards the direction of Fulian Mountain, causing the villagers to exclaim in surprise. Yue Chen's eyes flickered with admiration, and he looked forward to his cultivation even more. Who wouldn't yearn to swim towards the North Sea and the towering sky at dusk? Cultivation stems from a person's reverence and longing for life, yearning for longevity and even immortality. Now that opportunities are in front of us, we must work hard to cultivate and attain immortality. Just as he was thinking about it, he suddenly heard his father's voice ringing in his ear. Brother Chen, the immortal has taken you as his disciple. Are you going to leave home and follow the immortal to cultivate immortality in the future? Yu Lin's eyes were filled with surprise, which was hard to believe. Yue Chen looked at his father and thought about how far away he would be from home in the future, and when he would be able to come back and see his parents again. He felt a pang of discomfort in his heart. At this moment, the villagers outside the house had already gathered around and said with various tongues, Brother Chen is really brave. He has become a disciple of immortals this time, and if he achieves success in his cultivation in the future, he will envy us. Unfortunately, my son did not come. If my son is also here, maybe he will also be accepted as a disciple. Some people say, even if your child is here, even if he is not clever, he will not be interested and will still be useless, and so on. Yue Chen was feeling uncomfortable and annoyed, so he quickly grabbed his father's hand and ran through the crowd towards home. As soon as he returned home, the courtyard door was closed. Li Shi was doing embroidery with a few sisters inside the house. Yue Chen rushed to Li Shi and hugged her tightly, saying, Mother, the child can't bear to part with you. Li Shi exclaimed in surprise, My son, what's wrong with this? After speaking, he looked at Yu Lin who followed and asked with his eyes. Yu Lin was still shocked and received the gaze of his mother. Law. He quickly said, Lin Yang, you don't know. Just now, the immortal took Brother Chen as his disciple, and Brother Chen can also become a fairy in the future. After saying this, he excitedly waved his fist. Upon hearing the leader's words, Li was pleased at first and then thought about something. Her eyebrows furrowed and she said, Will my son follow the immortal to practice and leave home in the future? Yue Chen took a sniff and said, Yes, my mother. It's a great opportunity for my son to join the sect of Shenxiao Immortal Sect this time. It's said that there are immortals in the world, but no one has seen them for thousands of years. It's really because our place is too remote. If I miss this opportunity, I wonder if I can have the chance to enter the sect again. After a pause, he said again, Besides, my son has entered the sect and there is no room for repentance. My son also wants to live forever. Mom, when my son's cultivation is successful, I will bring immortal pills to his parents to prolong his life. However, I don't know when I will be able to come back because I am too far away from home. I can't bear to part with my parents. Tears welled up in my eyes as he spoke. Li's heart seemed to be filled with joy and sorrow, and she couldn't speak for a while. It took her a while to stabilize her mind and said, It's impossible for many people to ask for my son's immortal fate. Don't say anything foolish anymore. Your father and I are still young, so we can still afford to wait for our son to return home. She said so, but she held on to the more dusty hand and exerted even more force. At this moment, the three sisters finally realized from this shocking news. The older sister and the second sister were not doing anything yet. The third sister, Yue Chen, rushed over and grabbed Yue Chen's little hand, saying, "Chen, are you really going far away from home?" Her eyes turned red and tears began to fall. Yue Chen looked at the concerned expression of his three sisters and couldn't bear to part. He wiped away his tears and said, "I'll stay at home for a few more days. I'll come back to pick me up after my master finishes. Sisters, don't be sad. My younger brother will come back to see you in the future." Turning his head, he asked Li Shi again, "Mom, where's my younger brother?" Li wiped her eyes and said, "Brother Ko is tired of playing and just fell asleep. Don't go call him. Mom will cook and call him later." She then called her elder sister and went to the stove to fetch rice and cook. In less than a day's effort, the news of Yue Chen being taken as a disciple by the immortals in Yuejia village spread throughout the nearby 10 miles and 8 townships, and even Yong County, which was in charge of Fuyan town, heard of this. For a moment, local gentry and wealthy people came to Yuejia village with their own children. As soon as the immortal settled here, everyone wanted to try their luck. In case their own children were also favored by the immortal. Although Yue Chen is going to cultivate immortality, his parents and relatives are still here and will never move away. Being friendly with his family will inevitably bring benefits in the future. Along with the marriage affairs of the three sisters Yue Chen, they were all in high demand. For a while, their hands were hot, and there were hundreds of women in the family seeking help. The chaos outside was completely ignored by Yue Chen. At this moment, he was sitting upright on the bed, carefully sorting out the knowledge in his mind. He did not first look at the cultivation method, but first started reading Divine World Chronicles. After seeing it, Yue Chen found out that after his previous life's death, his soul traveled through space to this planet. This world is a brown planet named Akira, named after the coexistence of oceanic volcanoes on the planet, and Akira is the largest planet in the Akira realm. The place where he is located is Shenxiao continent, surrounded by both sea and mountains on all sides. The Shenxiao continent is vast and boundless, and even an ordinary immortal family can fly for several years without touching the edge. The mainland is divided into 4 directions, namely Shenzhou to the east, Xianzhou to the south, Xianzhou to the north, and Lingzhou to the west. The 4 continents are separated by the East China Sea, Nanming Volcano, Baiming Abyss, and endless expanses. Among them, Shenzhou to the east and Xianzhou to the south are blessed with many caves and abundant resources. They are occupied by Taoist sects, and there are few demonic or Buddhist sections. The Baiming Xianzhou is a place of ancient yin and evil, with 9 hidden rivers, so it is occupied by the Demon Gate, occasionally with side gates mixed in. As for Shiji Lingzhou, it is sparsely populated and lacks abundant resources, so only 3 major Buddhist temples are located on it. To the east lies Shenzhou and Nanming Xianzhou, where there are numerous blessed caves and lands. Among them, the 12 great caves, 36 water mansions, 72 blessings, and 7 great paths sect are mostly located on the 2 continents and are controlled by Taoist gates, with few side gates occupying them. The Shenxiao Immortal Sect is located on Xiande Mountain, which borders Shenzhou to the east. One of the 12 great cave heavens, the Taishian Zhongshan heaven, is located here, where the disciples of the Shenxiao Immortal Sect practice. All the introductions given by Lin Zhongzong are detailed, but now he only has a rough understanding, so as not to run to the Demon Gate territory in the future when he has completed his cultivation and travels. In case he is beaten to death, he will find someone to reason with. I heard that the earlier one cultivates, the better. A child's mind is pure and has no distractions, making it very easy to get started. I don't know if he can get started in his 2 lifetimes. Feeling a little uneasy in his heart, he quickly found out the general outline of the divine sky to carefully read. This method is only for building foundations. I believe he has not yet returned to his sect to worship his ancestor, and this cheap master will not pass on the entire method to him. Speaking of which, he has fantasized about being one of the protagonists in his previous life's novels. He travels through time with his own artifacts, picking up anything is a magic weapon, and when he sleeps, he has cultivation techniques and so on in his mind. Unfortunately, he grew up to the age of 6 or 7, and even after touching every corner of the village in front and behind his house, he couldn't find anything unusual. His golden fingers were even absent, which made him somewhat discouraged. Fortunately, he had a great fortune this time and was taken in by Wei Wuxiang, who passed down the Dharma technique. Now, he has firm confidence and should cherish this hard-earned opportunity to practice well and gain insight into immortality. Practice is not like the realm he thought of as the golden elixir, Yuanying, Yuejia, and Mahayana. Instead, it is divided into several major realms. Refining essence and transforming qi, refining qi and transforming spirit, refining spirit and returning to emptiness, and refining emptiness and combining the Tao. Each realm is further divided into several smaller realms. Now that he has just practiced, he only focuses on the realm of refining essence and transforming qi. Refining essence and transforming qi also involves building foundations, integrating, entering the body, condensing evil spirits, practicing gang, and alchemy. Each realm is not divided into several layers, it only depends on the depth of your accumulation, and whether your magic is polished perfectly or not. It is all a matter of hard work. Once you accumulate it, you naturally enter the next realm. It's too early to think about these things now, let's try practicing on our own first. And, Shenxiao Zonggang, is a unique qi refining method of Shenxiao Immortal Sect, and several major Zhenzong scriptures within the sect are all controlled by the magic power cultivated through this. Without learning Shenxiao Zonggang, even if someone obtains the Zhenzong scriptures, they cannot use it. It's just that the entire method is obscure and difficult to understand. He still has the ability to think in his past life, which makes it a bit difficult for him to understand. Fortunately, he is not really a child of 6 or 7 years old, and gradually he has figured out some ideas. To cultivate, the first step is to build a foundation. Building a foundation is for understanding reason, reducing one's mind, eliminating delusions, showcasing the Tao's mind, and achieving the unity of mind and body. Only with this foundation can one achieve the realm of enlightenment in the future. The conditions for reaching the level of foundation construction are: first, being able to settle down; second, being full of essence and energy, that is, being fully spiritual, full of energy in essence; third, having a full moon and a bright interior. These 3 conditions are indispensable. Fortunately, Yue Chen is only 6 or 7 years old now, still a young boy, and his family is not lacking in food and drink. In recent days, he has eaten a lot of animal meat, and now it is the time for his essence and spirit to be full. But after all, he is a person of 2 worlds, with complex thoughts and impure thoughts, making it difficult to settle in. He was not in a hurry to practice, but kept silently reciting the foundational chapter of The General Outline of the Divine Sky over and over again, hoping to understand it more thoroughly. He recited the General Outline of the Divine Sky for 2 days. On the 3rd day, before the sun had risen, he sat by the bed and recited it from the window, unconsciously immersed himself in it. Chapter 4. Beginning of Cultivation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the beginning of the big day, purple energy comes from the east. The more dust I recite, the more I gradually reach a state of selflessness. At that moment, he opened his mouth and sucked in a wisp of misty purple energy, and his body involuntarily began to move this purple energy according to the path of the Dharma. When he ran this purple qi along a specific route for a long period of time, it arrived at his dantian and firmly occupied it before moving. Yue Chen slowly opened his eyes and exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi, feeling a bit of joy in his heart. Finally, I have a sense of qi. Next, as long as I practice diligently every day, I can always ensure that my internal qi is sufficient, my meridians are unobstructed, and when I achieve complete internal qi, I will work hard to build a foundation. When he became excited, his mood suddenly became unstable. Now he couldn't settle down, so he decided to go out and tease Yuku. After all, he was about to follow his master to cultivate and spend less time with his family. Even if he longed for the immortal path, he was a bit reluctant. Over the past few days, Yuko has gradually understood that his elder brother is going a long way from home to cultivate immortality and seek enlightenment. He doesn't know when he will return, so he becomes more and more attached to him. Yue Chen loves this younger brother very much and also has deep feelings for several older sisters. He thought of waiting for his master to come back and beg him to see who else in his family could cultivate, so that he could take him on the path of cultivation. After all, the journey of immortality is too long, and having family to accompany is better than being alone. It's too lonely. In the past few days, Li and several sisters have sewn a lot of clothes for him, and they are not stingy with money. All of them are made of high-quality materials, which are truly the threads in the hands of a loving mother and the clothes of a wandering child. All kinds of durable food are being prepared every day, fearing that his master will suddenly come back and take him away, so that he may not be able to prepare enough. There's no need to mention the food. The chicken, duck, fish, and meat meals seem like we're going to eat up the losses in the coming years ahead of schedule. However, no matter what, he is only 6 or 7 years old now, and his appetite is not strong. In the end, all these fish and meat have entered the stomach of the whole family, and their complexion has improved. The older sisters also became more and more ethereal, and they looked even more dusty and uneasy. They were afraid that they would encounter non-human beings in the future, and he didn't know how to support them for a while. A thought has been swirling in his mind these days, becoming increasingly clear. He only needs to wait for his master to turn around and see everyone's qualifications before making a decision. In the past few days, he had also gone out to bid farewell to his friends, but looking at their reserved and jealous eyes, he didn't want to find himself bored anymore. In the following days, Yue Chen woke up early to absorb the newly formed purple energy. Now, the purple energy has also grown stronger, and a trace of purple energy has been produced in all the meridians of his body. Only when the purple energy grows stronger can these meridians be filled, and then he can build a foundation to see the next realm. As Yue Chen was engrossed in transporting Zhou Tian, he only heard a thunderous roar. He suddenly opened his eyes and rushed out of the door, ignoring the surging true energy. In the distance, a burst of green smoke rose from half of the mountainside of Fuyan Mountain, followed by a huge sword light rising into the sky, slanting down. From a distance, a groove appeared on the mountainside as if it had been cut. Then the sword light converged and leaped up in a green robe, heading straight towards Yuejia village. "Master, it's Master here." Yue Chen was filled with excitement. He said he wasn't worried these days, which was also false. He was afraid that his cheap master might delay him and forget him here. Unexpectedly, after only a few days, the master turned around. Just now, Yue Chen was carrying the goods on Sunday and had not finished work yet. He suddenly came out without restraining his true qi. Fortunately, he has been practicing tirelessly these past few days, and his true qi has already taken its own path of movement. It is still running on its own, which has given him a lot of inspiration for a while. When he used to read novels, he was very envious of the protagonist. He didn't have to take the initiative to use his martial arts skills, and he was automatically practicing while eating and sleeping. Now it seems that I can't help but practice like those protagonists all the time. In this way, won't I be able to build a foundation soon? As he was muttering inwardly, he saw a red-orange sword light fall into the courtyard. He quickly took a closer look and saw his cheap master Wei Wuxiang standing in the courtyard, smiling and watching him. Yue Chen's surprised eyes lit up and he exclaimed, "Master, Master, what happened to the thunder just now? Did you cut that sword light?" Wei Wuxi couldn't help but laugh at the way he exclaimed. After all, he was still a child. Even if he pretended to be old, he couldn't avoid his childish nature. He said with a reserved tone, "Not bad, it's exactly what a teacher does. How about it? Do you want to learn? Do you want to be as powerful as a teacher?" Yue Chen quickly nodded his head like a chicken pecking at rice and said, "I want to learn, master teaches me." Wei Wuji said solemnly, "You cannot set your sights too high on the path of cultivation. Your main goal now is to lay a solid foundation, and after building it, you can only learn other spells by cultivating your magic. Don't think too much about it for now." Yue Chen nodded obediently and said, "I understand, master. I will work hard to cultivate and not disappoint your expectations." Wei Wuxiang nodded in satisfaction and stopped speaking. The master and disciple entered the room, while Yu Lin was still busy in the field and did not come back. Only Li Shi and 3 girls were doing embroidery work. Seeing the immortal enter the room, Li quickly stepped forward and saluted, "This is my son's master, isn't it? The immortal's presence has made my humble abode shine brightly. I just don't know the name of the immortal. What is his name?" The child didn't explain it clearly when he returned home. "I hope the immortal can forgive me." Wei Wuji couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this. In his last hurried departure, he forgot to tell his disciple his name and taboo. If those guys in the door knew about it, wouldn't they be laughing at me for several days and nights? Cough, it's better not to let them know about such things. At this moment, upon hearing Li's question, I quickly bowed my hand and said, "I am Wei Wuxiang, a true disciple of the Shenxiao Immortal Sect in Xinde Mountain. My Taoist name is Tai Lin, and I have seen Madam. I have just marked the boundary on the mountainside of Fulian Mountain and warned the monsters on the mountain. I believe they will not risk offending our Shenxiao Immortal Sect and come down the mountain to disturb the people. As for ordinary beasts, I cannot care about them so much. I believe you will also use them to give them a tooth ritual on a daily basis." Seeing that Li's behavior was dignified and generous, without the roughness of a peasant woman, I was somewhat surprised. I thought to myself that it was no wonder her disciple was clever and lovely, not as stubborn as ordinary village children. It was because of her parents. Seeing the kind attitude of Taoist Tai Lin and hearing him say that the threat on the mountain had been lifted, Li's anxious heart fell to its original place. He quickly said, "Immortal, please sit up, Brother Chen, go and serve tea." As he spoke, Yue Chen had already brought the tea. Originally, a few sisters saw the arrival of the immortal and quickly left the embroidery work to get up. The older sister, Yue, was older and more stable. She brewed the tea early and watched as Yue Chen entered the room, quickly handing it to him. Taoist Tai Lin's spirit was so strong that he had already noticed that there were still a few people inside the house. At this moment, he didn't drink tea and waved his hand, saying, "Don't be busy drinking tea. How many people are still in your family? Let's call out and meet them." Li's eyes lit up and she quickly went into the next room, calling on several daughters to tidy up before coming out to meet. Led by elder sister Yue, she bowed from a distance to Taoist Tai Lin and said, "I've seen a fairy before. The scenery of the Taoist Tai Lin is as beautiful as the moon, unparalleled in beauty, making the eldest sister and 2 sisters blush with embarrassment." Taoist Tai Lin didn't care and only said, "Come closer." After waiting for the 3 women to come forward, he carefully looked at them and pointed to the 3 sisters Yue Chen, saying, "What's your name? How old are you this year?" Yue Chen was bold and not afraid of the Taoist Tai Lin. When he asked, he said crisply, "My name is Yue Chen, I am 8 years old this year." After speaking, he curved his big eyes like 2 grapes. Taoist Tai Lin is really surprised now. This young lady is also a bit bold. Few children are afraid of strangers, let alone a young lady. With such thoughts in mind, he couldn't help but get up and reach out to cover the increasingly excited Tian Ling guy. As soon as he sensed it, Taoist Tai Lin's eyes were filled with brilliance, praising him repeatedly, "Good aptitude, great talent." Then he sighed again, "Unfortunately, it's the body of the Tai Yin. Upon hearing this, Yue Chen quickly asked, Master, what is the body of the Tai Yin? Can my third sister cultivate? The Taoist Tai Lin was not annoyed by his questioning, but instead explained, the body of the Tai Yin is a unique system that is rare to see for thousands of years. In other words, it was originally a daughter's body, and her body should be filled with the energy of the Xian Yin. However, due to her exceptional talent, there is still a small amount of solar essence hidden within the Tai Yin body. This solar essence can naturally grow in the Xian Yin environment, which shows how pure it is. If there is no specific cultivation method, the essence of the sun will not have much effect in the body, but if there is a suitable method, her cultivation will take 1,000 miles a day, and there are basically few bottlenecks in breaking through the realm. After a pause, Taoist Tai Lin said again, the reason why I sigh is because there is no suitable method in our sect for her to practice. Upon hearing this, Yue Chen suddenly became anxious. Even Yue Chen had just heard about his exceptional talent and had not yet had a chance to be happy. In the blink of an eye, he heard from the immortal that he could not master the secret for himself to cultivate. In the huge gap, he almost cried out. Upon seeing this, Taoist Tai Lin hurriedly said, Don't cry. I'm saying that there is no Dharma technique in my sect that you can practice, and I'm not saying that other sects don't. Anyway, since you are my disciple's sister, I won't treat you unfairly. I'll send you to a suitable place to practice. Yue Chen hurriedly asked, Master, which sect is it? Is it far from home? After listening to this, Taoist Tai Lin glanced sideways and said, the Zhenong technique, Tai Yin refining God technique, from the Piamiao Immortal Palace on Qixia Mountain is just right for her to practice. It's just 3 million miles apart. Are you saying it's far or not? Even our Shenxiao Immortal Sect is millions of miles away. Yue Chen couldn't help but be stunned and thought, thousands of miles. This is too far. If I succeed in my cultivation and come home to visit in the future, wouldn't I have to rush to death on my way? Taoist Tai Lin seemed to be able to see what he was thinking and laughed heartily, Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. You'll be back soon when you can wield your sword. He asked Yue Chen again, Are you willing to go 1,000,000 miles away with me to become a disciple? Yue Chen just had one joy and one sorrow, and now there will be another joy. It's really a mix of joy and sorrow. Unfortunately, she's only 8 years old, and she can't bear such mental exhaustion. Now listening to Taoist Tai Lin's question, he quickly persevered and said, I am more willing. As long as I can see my younger brother more often in the future, I am more willing to practice. Chapter 5. Various Organic Origins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Su family, Yue Chen, was willing to leave home to practice for his younger brother. Yue Chen was greatly moved upon hearing this. The siblings are of similar ages and have a deep emotional connection. It is believed that the third sister's willingness to leave home to practice also has its own reasons. Taoist Tai Lin patted his hands and smiled, Okay. In the future, your siblings can support each other on the path of cultivation and go even further. She said to Li again, Madam, what a great fortune. Her children are both talented, with extraordinary talents. Poor Li gave up his eldest son to practice at home, which was already as painful as digging her liver. Now he has to give up his daughter to practice, which is really digging her liver and heart. She wanted to stay, but was afraid of blocking the opportunity for her children. She knew that such an opportunity was hard to come by, and was feeling hurt. She only heard a commotion in the courtyard. Mother, father is back. The childish cry came as Yao Yueka came back from playing outside and happened to see his father Yuelin standing outside the hall. Along the way, Yulin heard from his neighbors that the immortal had fallen into his home and hurried back. As soon as he arrived at the door, he heard the immortal saying that his children had talent, which made him somewhat puzzled. Yulin quickly picked up his youngest son and entered the house. When he saw the fairy, he quickly put down his child and saluted, saying, I have seen the fairy, but I don't know what the fairy's words mean. Taoist Tai Lin pointed at Yue Chen and said, your young lady has extraordinary talent. If she practices properly, she is not inferior to your elder brother. Why is it that your husband and wife still don't want their children to practice? Taoist Tai Lin's eyes were extremely cruel. With just one glance, he could tell that Li Shi was unwilling in his heart. However, he did not say it out loud. After all, the separation of mother and son makes it natural for him to be reluctant. Upon hearing what Taoist Tai Lin said, Yu Lin quickly looked at Li Shi. After all, as a married couple for many years, he couldn't understand what Li Shi was thinking. He thought inwardly, this woman is not very sensible. What if she messes up the opportunity between the three sisters and brother Chen? With such thoughts in mind, Yu Lin hurriedly said, Immortal, don't blame me. My wife just has a reluctance in her heart. How can such a great opportunity be prevented? After speaking, he pulled Yuko closer and said with a resounding voice, Fairy, let's see if I have any immortal fate like this. Taoist Tai Lin was taken aback and said strangely, are you really willing to give up all your children to me? Yu Lin said solemnly, why bother? They are going to cultivate and become immortals. They will live forever and be carefree in the future. What many people cannot ask for is to have no chance to live forever. It's also good to live a few more years. After hearing this, Taoist Tai Lin couldn't help but laugh and cry. He smiled and said, anyway, I'll come and see how many people in your family can practice. He then reached out and covered Yuka's head, sensing it carefully. Yuka stared blankly at Taoist Tai Lin, but was momentarily attracted by his appearance and forgot to be afraid. It wasn't until Taoist Tai Lin withdrew his palm that he regained consciousness. He waved his chubby hand and pointed at Taoist Tai Lin, shouting to his mother, beautiful. Upon hearing this, Taoist Tai Lin couldn't help but twitch his lips and was shaken hard by the bare child. Li didn't have time to feel sad, so he quickly pressed Yuka's small hand to make amends and said, Immortal, don't blame me. The child is young and inexperienced. I will punish him now. The Taoist waved his hand and said, all right, can we have the same understanding as the children? After speaking, he pondered again and said, you have some qualifications, but you are too young. It is not easy to determine your cultivation at this age, and the result is twice the result. It will be better for my disciple to come back a few years later when he returns home and start his studies. Li thought that the child could still stay by his side for a few more years, and when the children would come home to meet again in the future, he didn't resist so much for a moment. I couldn't help but feel the joy of Yu Linxi and clasped my hands together, saying, it's really a blessing from our ancestors, what a great fate. Taoist Tai Lin shook his head after seeing the qualifications of his elder sister and two sisters. It's strange to say that 3 out of the 5 children in this family can cultivate, which is a great opportunity. However, Fengguo was originally a small border country, and Fulian town was even more remote. Fulian Mountain used to be the North Abyss. There is infinite danger in the Beiming Abyss, all of which are mean and evil things, with few heavenly and earthly treasures. Those with low cultivation accidentally enter the abyss, and they will die without life. Those with high cultivation will not appreciate the output in the abyss. Gradually, for nearly 1,000 years, few cultivators have come to this place, and even when the sect recruits disciples, they do not come here. As a result, this border town has not seen any immortals for many years, thinking it is just a legend. And many people with cultivation talents have also been overlooked, as have the parents of Yue Chen. Otherwise, how could they have given birth to several children with exceptional talents? On the side, Yue Chen saw that the matter had been settled. 2 of the 5 siblings were about to go to practice, and one of them was also a seed of cultivation after staying for a few years. There were only eldest and second sisters left at home, and the thought in his heart became more and more firm. As soon as he remembered this, he put on a serious expression and said, Mom and Dad, I have a sentence for my child. I hope Mom and Dad agree. Yulin couldn't help but laugh and said, "You're too serious, just say whatever you have." Yue Chen blinked his big black jade-like eyes, but his words shook his parents and left them speechless for a moment. "Dad, Mom, in the future, we will all be leaving home to practice, leaving only the eldest and second sisters at home. The child is far away from home and cannot fulfill filial piety under the parents' knees, which makes me very uneasy. The eldest and second sisters will have no support when they get married in the future, and even if we come back later, it will be of no use." He swallowed his saliva and said, "So the child has been thinking about it for a while. Only by letting the two sisters recruit a son-in-law at home and take care of their parents can we slightly ease the child's worries." Yue and Yu Tian couldn't help but be moved by this. After all, girls are always good at home, and when they marry into another family, everything is up to them. The two girls looked at each other, and both looked eagerly at Yuelin. It was obvious that father had the final say in the family affairs. Li couldn't help but be overjoyed and readily agreed, okay, from now on, we will recruit a son-in-law to stay at home. If we don't go to another house, I won't be able to bear to part with you." Yulin saw Li's joy and no longer hurt his nerves, so he replied, "Okay, Dad agreed to this matter. I'll ask your mother to find a matchmaker later and see which family has a suitable young man. I won't let your two sisters suffer." Yue Chen smiled and said, "In the future, there will always be one of our sons who has achieved success in their cultivation. I think there will be others who only flatter our family. I hope my father can inquire more about it. We must find that family with a clean and kind family background." After hearing this, the eldest sister and two sisters were both moved and looked at him with tears in their eyes. They were also reluctant to let go of their younger siblings who had traveled far. Li Shi laughed and cursed, "There's nothing you, a child, can worry about. Hurry up and help your master rest in the guest room. I think he's also tired after a few days on the mountain." She didn't know that it was common for cultivators to eat, wind, and sleep outdoors. Taoist Tai Lin had already reached a high level of cultivation and had no problem not only not thinking about food for 3 to 5 days, but also not eating for 3 to 5 years. Building a foundation for practitioners is a crucial skill. Some may never get started even after spending their entire lives, while others may achieve success in building a foundation in an instant. Therefore, in order to cultivate, the roots, bones, spirit, and wisdom are equally important. As the saying goes, the essence, energy, and spirit are indispensable. After building the foundation, there are 200 years of longevity, and the next step is to slowly polish the magic to combine the body and cultivation into a harmonious state. At this point, we have entered the realm of fusion. At this level, it is necessary to integrate various feelings, and this level requires a high level of understanding. You can come to the stage of integration later to comprehend. Although Taoist Tai Lin has already reached the realm of transforming gods, it is inevitable that he is a bit tired after traveling nearly 10 million miles continuously. At this moment, Li asked him to go to the guest room to rest, and after a moment of meditation, he finally recovered. The guest room has been cleaned up long ago, and Li has moved all the best belongings in the house to this room, so the decoration is not bad either. However, it cannot be compared to the heavenly materials and earthly treasures used by practitioners. Fortunately, Taoist Tai Lin does not care about these external objects. At this moment, Yue Chen followed him into the room and obediently asked his master to check his own cultivation. After all, he had just started practicing and knew very little, and he had no golden fingers to accelerate his cultivation. Everything could only rely on his master's guidance. Taoist Tai Lin could see his current cultivation status with just one glance, and he patted his chin with satisfaction, nodding his head and saying, "Very good. I didn't misjudge your qualifications, but after a few days of hard work, I didn't guide you. You have also cultivated your qi sense. I think you will be able to lay a foundation in a few days." Yue Chen was also somewhat pleased to be praised by his master, but he was not proud. After all, his cultivation had just begun and there was still a long way to go. He also asked his master for advice with questions he didn't understand. Taoist Tai Lin is not secretive either. He only provides detailed guidance on various obstacles in his cultivation and imparts his previous experiences to Yue Chen. Yue Chen felt grateful in his heart, listened attentively, and his face couldn't help but show a look of admiration. Seeing the Taoist Tai Lin becoming more and more satisfied, I only felt that this disciple was not mistaken, had good qualifications and a good heart, and with some luck, he could definitely go further. After returning, you can also show off in front of your fellow disciples. After all, there are not many disciples in their generation of true biographies, and not everyone has good luck to recruit good disciples. Thinking of this, the focus of the Tai Lin Taoist's language is profound. Practicing is not just about hard work. Wealth, couples, laws, and land are indispensable. When our disciples reach the level of building foundations, they can go down the mountain and travel. Firstly, they can increase their knowledge and temper their character. Secondly, there are naturally those who have good opportunities to search for natural resources and treasures for their own cultivation. After all, this is a huge sect with tens of thousands of disciples to support. Where do resources come from? It is not something that has been contributed by generations of disciples. There are resources that we cannot use ourselves, and we can exchange them with the sect for contribution value. You will learn about this when you return to the sect in the future. The main point of being a teacher is that those who practice also value Qi luck. Although Qi luck is elusive and cannot be traced, there are also traces to follow. Time and earth all work together, and the movement is not free at all. As the saying goes, the Tao generates one, one generates two, two generates three, and three generates all things. All things in the world are formed by one great transformation, which is a law rather than destiny. Meeting a teacher in this barren land is also a kind of Qi luck. It seems that Qi luck is not bad, and many children, as the teacher, only accept you as their disciple. Upon hearing this, Yue Chen chuckled and listened to his master's words. Those who practice also value cause and effect. There is a cycle of cause and effect, and there is a fixed number. Everything has its own cycle. As the saying goes, if you plant a melon, you will reap the fruit. If you plant a good cause, you will surely receive good results, and vice versa. In the future, when you go out for a trip, you must be cautious. If you have any enemies that cannot be resolved, you must cut down the grass and eliminate them, and the ashes will disappear. Don't be soft-hearted or resentful. Chapter 6. The Theory of Magic Treasures. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The insights of Taoist Tai Lin shocked Yue Chen's heart. It seems that this master is also a decisive master in killing and attacking. In my previous life, I watched countless novels, movies, and TV shows, all of which were villains who died from talking too much. The protagonist was also struggling, kind, and was defeated by others. It seems that in the future, I need to integrate into this world as soon as possible and abandon some of the concepts in my past life. After all, these are two different worlds, and the world of practice is even more cruel, Yue Chen thought silently. In my previous life or influenced by many film and television works, when it comes to cultivation, the public always associates it with the image of a hidden immortal outside the world. Taoist practice of seclusion is not about breaking through the mortal world, but rather about cultivating various obstacles in nature and life in this way. Practice cultivates the mind and body desires and delusions, and cultivates the enlightened mind and pure true body. Yue Chen touched his chest and said that this scroll mark had been growing on his chest for several years, but it did not grow larger as he grew older. After practicing these days, it felt like the clouds and mist on the scroll had dissipated a bit. Maybe this was also my chance. One day, I will figure it out and see what you really are. It has been 2 days since Yue Chen and his siblings packed their bags and bid farewell to their parents. Although both sides are extremely reluctant, the heavenly avenue is right in front of them, and no one will give up, nor will anyone stop them. Taoist Tai Lin took out a green gourd, which was 3 feet above the ground and grew in the wind. In no time, it was already 2 zhang in size. The Taoist waved his hand, and the siblings couldn't help but fly up and sit on the gourd. The more Chen and the younger siblings sat in the middle of the gourd, the bigger they were. They hugged their younger brother, afraid he would fall off. Taoist Tai Lin leapt up and sat at the end of the gourd, soaring into the sky. The siblings looked down at their loved ones getting farther and farther below, both tearful and waving desperately. After all, it was a child's nature. In no time, the siblings withdrew their tears and looked around curiously, without any fear. I saw white clouds swaying around me, and the speed of the gourd was not slow. The Taoist Tai Lin used his magic to prop up a barrier outside the gourd, blocking the strong wind caused by the rapid flight and preventing people from falling. It's too far from the ground to see clearly, and the siblings soon lose interest in watching. Yue Chen decided to start meditating and practicing, absorbing spiritual energy and striving to build a foundation as soon as possible. Yuejia had not yet practiced and his spirit was shorter, so he fell asleep on the gourd. So they flew during the day, and when the 2 dolls were hungry, they would eat dry food and only rest at night to replenish their food. 3 days later, as the sky grew darker, Taoist Tai Lin found a low mountain peak with a dilapidated Taoist temple on it. The Taoist's divine sense turned and he had checked both inside and outside the Taoist temple, knowing that there was no danger to the 2 little ones here. Yue Chen had a keen eye, and when he saw his master stopping here, he quickly stepped forward to knock on the door. The doorknob rang, "Quang Quang," and in no time, an elderly voice accompanied by coughing came from far to near. "Cough, cough, here, cough, here." With a creaking sound, the door opened. I saw an old Taoist with a waxy yellow face, panting heavily as he supported the door frame. The Taoist's clothes were worn out, but they were still relatively clean. At this moment, he finally caught his breath and looked at the 3 people outside the door, his gaze fixed on Taoist Tai Lin. I saw him reluctantly stand still and bow to Taoist Tai Lin, saying, "I've seen you before. I wonder why you came here, senior. What are you doing?" Taoist Tai Lin bowed back and said, "I have seen my fellow Taoist and my master and disciple passing by this place. When they saw that it was already late, they wanted to take a night off at the Taoist temple." "Excuse me." The old Taoist hurriedly said, "Don't disturb, don't disturb. As long as the senior doesn't mind the dilapidated Taoist temple, please come in quickly," he said, letting his background come. Taoist Tai Lin entered first, but Yue Chen saw that it was difficult for the old Taoist to stand. He quickly helped him into the temple and sat down. This Taoist temple has only 3 rooms, 1 main hall, 1 side hall, and 1 kitchen. There was only 1 god in the main hall. He didn't look carefully outside the door at first. At this time, Taoist Tai Lin looked around and was surprised. He saw a god statue that was 2 feet tall, covered in red, and holding a pagoda in his hand. What made him stare was the shape of the pagoda. It was actually the same as the Shenxiao Zile Tower, one of the 4 magic treasures of the Shenxiao Immortal Sect. That was interesting. Shenxiao Immortal Sect is one of the top sects in this world, which has been in power for more than 300,000 years. There are countless key scriptures and techniques, including the famous technique of refining treasures, Rui treasure refining technique, it's within it. Therefore, after years of sacrificial refining, there are 4 items that have achieved pure yang magic treasures, and the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda is one of them. This is one of the methods for practicing the Zhenzong law of the Shenxiao Immortal Sect, Shenxiao Thunder Technique, a unique treasure. Magic treasures are also classified into levels, from low to high. They are magic tools, spiritual tools, Taoist tools, magic weapons, and pure yang magic weapons. As for pure yang magic weapons, they cannot be refined in this realm. Generally, when practicing to the realm of transforming gods, having a Taoist tool is not enough, and even fewer have magic treasures. At the level of pure Yang magic treasures, the entire world can count. After all, human energy is limited, and only after practicing can one cultivate and refine magic treasures. If there is enough opportunity, there are also those who can complete the 36 prohibitions of the Heavenly Gang in one fell swoop and achieve magic treasures, but that is also very rare. It depends on luck, and usually it is slowly refined. The promotion from a magic weapon to a pure Yang magic weapon is truly achieved through water grinding and hard work. Some magic weapons cannot achieve pure Yang until their masters sit down, and they need to be gradually cultivated by the next generation who practice the same magic technique. It is not until the 36 Heavenly Gang prohibitions combine to form a pre-Heavenly God prohibition and a bit of true spirit that pure Yang can be achieved. Afterwards, the magic weapon can take off its body and no longer be restricted by the magic weapon. It can independently cultivate and ascend to the upper realm, and can also be regarded as an alternative creature, on par with those who refine the void and harmony Tao. From then on, becoming a sect and ancestor is indispensable. However, if there is a special treasure to cultivate, it can be twice as effective with half the effort and save countless years of effort. For example, the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda was refined in a thunder valley where thunder kept ringing and purple light shone all year round. So, people who practice, wealth couples legal land, it is essential to have some luck in order to go further on the road. The Taoist Tai Lin is also a person with profound qi luck. He has reached the realm of transforming gods before the age of 100, and has become one of the 36 true legends of the Shenxiao Immortal Sect. Don't think that the number 36 is too many. You should know that the Shenxiao Immortal Sect has been in power for more than 300,000 years and has 50 or 60,000 disciples. It's not easy to stand out from them. This Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda was taken out of the sect by the first Jingyu Immortal from the previous generation Shenlei Peak over 10,000 years ago. Even the person carrying the treasure was lost, and the sole lamp in the sect had been extinguished. The elders couldn't figure out where Jingyu fell, as if there were some obstacles. It's amazing to see a pagoda like the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda held by a deity statue here now. Taoist Tai Lin has already had a grudge in his heart, and he just needs to ask the old Taoist about it. He didn't beat around the bush and ask directly, "Taoist, who are you offering in this hall?" Upon hearing this, the old Taoist said with a look of reverence, "This is my Grandmaster." About 10,000 years ago, Grandmaster subdued demons and demons here and was accidentally injured. The people are grateful and have raised funds to build this Taoist temple for Grandmaster to rest. The old Taoist took a sip of tea and swallowed the itching in his throat, then said, after Grandmaster's injury was healed, he felt grateful for the simplicity of the people. Therefore, he recruited several disciples here and raised them for more than 10 years. However, he left only a few words and disappeared without a trace, and no one has seen him again. For over 10,000 years, Taoist temples have risen and fallen, and now only I, the despicable old man who is about to be buried, sigh. The old Taoist sighed helplessly. Taoist Tai Lin continued to ask, "What is the Taoist name of your ancestral master?" The old Taoist arched his hand at the statue and said, "The ancestral master's Taoist name is Jingyu. Legend has it that he learned from the Shenxiao Immortal Sect, but his younger disciples are not up to par and it is difficult for them to achieve anything. They really have no face coming to recognize their ancestors and return to their ancestral home." At this point, the old Taoist regained his senses and asked, "Why did the Taoist come to ask this question? Is it?" The old Taoist's gaze was burning, staring closely at Taoist Tai Lin. Taoist Tai Lin did not conceal. Jingyu Immortal is the first peak of the Shenlei Peak, one of the 8 main peaks of our Shenxiao Immortal Sect. Unfortunately, more than 10,000 years ago, he left our sect with the Zhenzong treasure Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda and never returned, and the soul lamp has been extinguished for more than 8,000 years. Now that we see the statue of the immortal here, we cannot help but ask for clarification. This remark was accompanied by a thunderous roar in the old Taoist's ear, leaving him unsure of what to do. After a while, the old Taoist asked with difficulty, "How can the Taoist prove that you are a member of the Shenxiao Immortal Sect?" Taoist Tai Lin silently used his magic, pinching the thunderbolt technique in his hand, and suddenly, bang long, with a loud roar, a divine thunder thundered outside the Taoist temple door, causing him to tremble more and more. He quickly hugged his younger brother tightly. Looking at the old Taoist again, tears welled up in his eyes, and he pouted on the ground, choking up and saying, "I can see the people of the Immortal Sect once in my life, and I will die without regret." It is also pitiful to say that this Taoist temple has been passed down for more than 10,000 years, but it has fallen to this point. It is probably due to the hasty departure of Zhenren Jingyu, who did not leave any important inheritance or magic treasures behind. Otherwise, with the reputation of the Shenxiao Immortal Sect, they would never have fallen into their current situation. Taoist Tai Lin helped up the old Taoist and comforted him, saying, "Now that I know that the Shaoshan Thunder Peak and this lineage are still wandering outside, I will definitely report to the sect leader and accept you as a disciple." Upon hearing this, the old Taoist was pleasantly surprised and said in a desolate tone, "I am not far from death now. What is the use of entering the sect again, and there is no need to cause trouble for the Taoist priest." Taoist Tai Lin dusted his collar and said solemnly, "My Taoist name is Tai Lin, and it is one of the 30.6 true teachings of the Shenxiao Immortal Sect. There is still a small amount of it." Yue Chen reached out to cover his face, unable to bear to look directly at him. After spending the past few days together, he vaguely noticed that his master's personality was somewhat detached, making it difficult to connect with his master, who was in the prime of Yuejia village. "I think so. After all, Taoist Tai Lin has been practicing in his sect and rarely leaves, so his personality is inevitably simple and straightforward. But it's also good, at least his master treats him sincerely, and he treats his master like a family member." When he regained his senses, he heard his master ask, "What words did Zhenren Jingyu leave? Is there any record?" The old Taoist quickly replied, "Yes." "Is there really something?" Taoist Tai Lin couldn't help but feel a bit curious. "Tell me." Chapter 7. Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing the question from Taoist Tai Lin about the words left by the Grandmaster, the old Taoist swallowed a sip of tea before slowly speaking. Grandmaster only left 4 words at that time and instructed his disciples. If anyone from another sect seeks their source, they can be informed. If there are criminals who force them, they will swear to death not to comply and have their disciples make a poisonous oath. Cough cough. The old Taoist couldn't hold back the itching in his throat and coughed fiercely. Taoist Tai Lin flicked his finger and a green pill fell into the old Taoist's hand, causing him to suddenly look up at him. This is the Bai Shao Dan produced by the sect, as the name suggests, it means the complete elimination of all diseases. It is the practice work of the sect's alchemists, said Taoist Tai Lin nonchalantly. He didn't know the significance of this pill falling into the hands of the old Taoist. This old Taoist lived until he was in his 80s, and it was his first time encountering elixirs. Although he was also a practitioner, he had no guidance from his master, and his quality was not very good. He did not cultivate a reputation and only memorized the techniques left by his master. Otherwise, he would not have recognized the skill revealed by Taoist Tai Lin just now. Secondly, there was no alchemy technique. At that time, Taoist Jingyu only rested here for a short time and did not pass down the alchemy technique. Sanlai is located in a remote and impoverished area, and even a clever woman cannot cook without rice, let alone he does not have that skill. It is said that there are troublemakers in remote areas. If it weren't for his limited skills, he might not even be able to maintain this Taoist temple. However, in recent years, he has gradually become powerless. Recently, he fell seriously ill and almost survived. This cough is the root cause of the illness left behind at that time. He had a premonition that time was running out, but he didn't want to have such an adventure today. It was his fate, not his fate. Now that the pill is in hand, he can immediately change his life against the heavens. How can he not be grateful and want to repay him with his own body? Thinking of this, he tilted his neck and swallowed the pill. Quickly, as the medicinal power dissipated, the wrinkles on the old Taoist's face visibly disappeared, his white hair gradually turned black, and his breath gradually stabilized. Yue Chen and his two siblings looked straight from the side, not blaming them for making a fuss. After all, no one had seen such a miraculous pill that could bring life back to life. Yue Chen grabbed onto Taoist Tai Lin's sleeve and said, "Master." This sound dragged the elder. Hearing his disciple act coquettishly, Taoist Tai Lin couldn't help but reach out and touch his smooth chin. This disciple is usually very stable at a young age, and he knows the reason for acting so coquettishly at this moment. At this time, the little apprentice looked at him eagerly, and he could not help but blush. The reason was that he forgot to leave some pills for the Yuelin couple to strengthen their health when he left. After all, he was an apprentice for the first time and forgot it for a moment. Taoist Tai Lin said uneasily, "Your parents are in good health and can still live for 20 or 30 years. Yue Chen remained silent and only looked at him with a condemning gaze. Taoist Tai Lin couldn't help but say, "When this matter comes up, I'll go back and deliver some to your parents." Yue Chen squinted his big eyes and leaned against Taoist Tai Lin, saying, "Thank you, master. I will definitely be filial to you in the future." Yue Chen also gave a sweet smile to Taoist Tai Lin and said, "Master Tai Lin, I will also be filial to you in the future." Taoist Tai Lin burst out laughing with relief. Speaking of which, after taking the 100 herbs pill, the old Taoist in the temple opened his eyes for a while and suddenly knelt down to Taoist Tai Lin, saying, "Disciple Wang Bing has seen the senior. Thank you very much for saving your life." The old Taoist was also unaware of the seniority of the Tai Lin Taoist in the sect, so he had to address him as a senior. Speaking of which, this old Taoist now has withered trees and black hair. It's not good to call him an old Taoist anymore, just Wang Bing. Taoist Tai Lin didn't care and only spoke lightly, "It's a small matter, don't act like a child, and get up to speak." What 4 words did Zhenren Jingyu leave behind? "Yes, senior." Wang Bing dared not hesitate and quickly stood up. Returning to the senior generation, the founder only left 4 words: "One leaf obstructs the eye," and then there was no news. The younger generation's disciples' cultivation has also declined from generation to generation. When I come to the disciples' place, I cannot even build a foundation. I am truly ashamed. Don't underestimate yourself. Although you have average qualifications, it is still possible to seek a foundation in our immortal sect. As for higher levels, there are also some opportunities that cannot be imagined. After a pause, Taoist Tai Lin said, "All right, it's already late and I, the 2 little children, haven't eaten yet. Go and get some food over here." Wang Bing quickly apologized and said, "It's my disciple's negligence. I'll go prepare now." As he finished speaking, he walked into the kitchen and thought to himself, "Fortunately, yesterday, that child from Guminger brought rice, noodles, vegetables, and fruits. Otherwise, I would have been worried to death." Thinking of the situation of my great-nephew and grandson again, the old Taoist couldn't help but straighten his chest. Now that I am good at it, I will not let my obedient grandson suffer any more injustice. At this moment, in the main hall, Taoist Tai Lin looked at the 2 little ones and asked, "Are you both tired?" The siblings shook their heads together, and Yue Chen asked curiously, "Master, what does 1 leaf cover the eye mean?" As a pseudo-child, it's hard not to know if he knows, and besides, he doesn't know much about his school nowadays. If there were any hidden words or similar in it, wouldn't that be a pipe dream? Look at Master's confident attitude, if you don't understand, ask. Taoist Tai Lin shook his sleeve and said, "Why are you asking so many questions? Tomorrow will be clear, so if you're not tired, go meditate and practice." The siblings exchanged a glance and obediently took out the putuan to practice. After 2 hours of eating, the master and disciple all meditated and practiced without mentioning it. The next day, just as the sky was bright, Wang Bing prepared his morning meal early. After 2 hours of use, Taoist Tai Lin said, "I'll go check it out. You two should wait here and practice well, don't slack off." The siblings were busy. Taoist Tai Lin was able to come out of the Taoist temple, and his divine sense searched around, finding a direction and heading straight underground. One leaf obstructs the eyes only because of being in this mountain. Why did Jingyu Immortal rest here when he didn't go anywhere else after fighting against demons? He must be here for some reason. Later, Jingyu Zhenren left, perhaps because he knew it was dangerous to go there and was worried about losing the sect's treasures, so he left the 4 characters for later people to retrieve. Unexpectedly, none of the younger disciples have achieved anything, and it will be 10,000 years before they wait for the arrival of Taoist Tai Lin. It's also fortunate that Taoist Tai Lin is also a member of the Shenxiao Immortal Sect's Shenlei Peak, otherwise Wang Bing wouldn't have told him. Taoist Tai Lin sent the unearthed person to dig underground and quickly arrived at the mountainside. I saw a huge stone gate in the middle of the mountain, which was now shrouded in sparkling purple light. With just one glance, Taoist Tai Lin recognized this as the pure yang magic weapon of his sect, Purple Sky God Thunder Tower. The aura and halo produced, I couldn't help but feel certain in my heart that I had not found the wrong place. The Taoist Tai Lin pinched the technique and leaned against the purple light shield, slowly blending into the halo. With a gentle push, the stone door opened in response. It seems that this stone gate has long been broken down by immortal Jingyu. No one has entered this place for so many years, and it is entirely shrouded in the divine sky purple thunder pagoda. There is no trace of breath inside, otherwise it would have been overturned by someone long ago. The pure yang magic treasure is the highest quality magic treasure in this world. Even in this desolate and secluded place, it is placed under the eyes of those who refine the void in harmony Tao. The magic treasure can restrain its breath, and without that chance, it cannot be found. Nowadays, Taoist Tai Lin easily found the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda. One was a magical treasure with spirit, and he only let him in when he knew it was a disciple of his sect. Secondly, it was also the opportunity for Taoist Tai Lin to take charge of the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda, one of the 4 major treasures of the Zhenzong sect. Taoist Tai Lin entered the stone gate, but was stunned by the situation inside. I saw that it was as vast and boundless as an illusion, much larger than the small hill outside. I think this is the energy field derived from the pure yang magic treasure itself. There is no grass growing in the illusion, and thunder and fire are raging. On one hand, thunder waves like the end of the world descend, while on the other hand, magma rolls like purgatory, reflecting the entire illusion half red and half purple, divided into 2 and not giving way to each other. There is only an empty space in the corner to the right of the stone gate, which should be the area specially separated by the 2 treasures. The body of a 100-meter-long dragon coiled and lay in the open space. The dragon had already transformed into dragon horns, with scales and injuries all over its body. A sword tip was inserted 7 inches away, and the demon pill was nowhere to be seen. On the other side, a Taoist with an ancient face only had one right hand holding a broken sword, his chest sunken, and he lay on his back. The 2 corpses seemed to have just died and did not decay. From the damaged clothes of that Taoist, Taoist Tai Lin recognized him as the long-lost Jingyu Immortal. He was wearing the purple ribbon flowing cloud immortal clothes, which is only worn by the first deity of each generation, the god Thunder Peak. Just at this moment, the fairy clothes are extremely damaged. It seems that it was the Jiaolong self-disclosure demon pill that could not be resisted by the fairy clothes, which led to the death of Jingyu Immortal and Jiaolong together. After all, that dragon has almost transformed into a dragon, and its realm is slightly higher than that of Jingyu Immortal. Thinking of this, Taoist Tai Lin couldn't help but feel dejected. Although he didn't know Immortal Jingyu, the Shenxiao Immortal Sect had a proper understanding of the principles and harmonious relationships between disciples, unlike other sects competing for a little cultivation material. Besides, Taoist Tai Lin was born in Shenlei Peak, and Zhenren Jingyu was his ancestor from the previous generation. At this moment, he couldn't help but feel extremely sad when he saw that his ancestor had died here in order to kill the evil dragon that had harmed others. And Jingyu Immortal carries the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda, which is a pure yang magic weapon. How can ordinary monsters harm him? Thinking of this, Taoist Tai Lin suddenly looked up and up. I saw purple thunder bursts on one side, and the 2-meter-high Shenxiao Purple Thunder Tower bloomed with boundless divine light, resisting attacks like meteor fire rain. On the other side, a 3-foot-long, fiery red ruler was spinning slowly, and with each turn, blazing white flames attacked the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Tower. This is also a pure yang magic weapon. Still a purely aggressive weapon. Taoist Tai Lin has been here for a while, but he hasn't seen the magic treasure Yuanling come out. It seems that he has fought to the critical point and didn't have time to pay attention to him. Taoist Tai Lin bowed to the body of Immortal Jingyu and took out an empty Qianquan bag to collect her body. Afterwards, he casually collected the body of the dragon. Although the dragon had been dead for thousands of years, its body was strong and full of qi and blood. Under the cover of the pure yang magic treasure, it did not rot. The dragon was a treasure all over, and when it returned, it was handed over to the sect. Whether it was refining medicine or weapons, it could be cramped and bones scraped to avenge the death of Jingyu Zhenren. Chapter 8. The Heaven's Good and Evil List. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Inside the mountain, Taoist Tai Lin collected the corpses of Immortal Jingyu and Jiaolong. After finishing all of this, he suddenly flashed and arrived at the Purple Thunder Tower in the divine sky. He extended his crystal white palm and gently pressed it onto the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda, pouring out the powerful magical power unique to the Shenxiao Thunder technique and injecting it into the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda. Having obtained this pure magical power of the same lineage and origin, the balance between Shenxiao Purple Thunder Tower and Bao Qi was disrupted, instantly widening the gap. As the saying goes, one step at a time, the purple spirit of the pagoda is even stronger, and thunder is shining brightly. Click, with a loud sound, a divine thunderbolt struck the fire ruler, causing the visible light on the ruler to converge and the magma to shrink in a circle. Seeing this, the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Tower never stopped, with thunderous waves as if it was about to shatter the fire ruler with a burst of energy. Taoist Tai Lin also spared no effort in his magical power and input it into the Purple Thunder Tower of the divine sky. The flame of the fire ruler is getting smaller and smaller, as it seems to converge to nothingness, but it just doesn't disappear. That's right, if the pure yang treasure is so easy to clean up, it's not called a pure yang treasure anymore. In just this moment, Taoist Tai Lin's magic was almost at its limit, and his spirit was also dizzy. He gritted his teeth and took out a bottle of green pill. This is number 39, Bu Tian Dan, 1 drop instantly replenishes the divine soul and mana. This elixir is extremely precious and is the exclusive elixir of the alchemist Xuanhuan. Due to the scarcity of medicinal materials, it is rare for it to flow out in the cultivation world. This bottle was given to him by his sect leader Zhenren when he left. Now it seems that the leader may have already calculated this move before giving it to him. Bu Tian Dan, undoubtedly, he is known as a person, Sky Operator, the Old Fox. With this bottle, Bu Tian Dan, Taoist Tai Lin's confidence increased as if he had been beaten with chicken blood, and he vowed to take this pure yang treasure ruler. When Taoist Tai Lin subdued Hua Qi, the Yue Chen siblings had already become familiar within the Taoist temple. The siblings did not go out to play. Yue Chen meditated and practiced, while Yue Xian did not practice because he had not yet mastered the method. He only helped Wang Bing cook and took care of Yue Chen's clothes. At a young age, he took good care of his younger brother. Leaving his master, Yue Chen did not dare to slack off. At this time, His master was not here, and he wanted to build the foundation as soon as possible, so that the siblings could have some self-protection power. It is still due to the nature of his past life that he dare not trust anyone 100% except for his family. Although he has been loved and cared for by his family in this lifetime, and his personality has improved a lot, he has only known Wang Bing for a few days and dare not take it lightly. In the side hall, Yue Chen has reached a critical point of cultivation, and he has a premonition that today is a good time to build a foundation. It's just that his master is not here and there is no one to guide him, so he can only restrain his true qi and follow the mantra. Unconsciously, Yue Chen entered the mysterious and ethereal realm again, and his true qi turned faster and faster, filling the entire meridian in Dantian. This is the benefit of the scale-free Tao body. It is easy to enter enlightenment, and cultivation is as simple as drinking water and eating. Gradually, the true qi had overflowed, and the more dust, the more subconsciously compressed the true qi, the more condensed it became. Slowly, a little pure white magic is derived and produced. Bang, with a loud sound, the elixir field seemed to explode, and that bit of magic was like water in an oil pot. Suddenly, the true energy in the entire meridian elixir field was transformed into magic in an instant, and there was a loud bang in my mind. The whole person was sublimated. At this moment, in the increasingly dusty sea of consciousness, a scroll is quietly suspended above it. At this moment, the scroll has been fully opened, and the clouds and mist on it have dissipated, revealing 5 big characters. As soon as Yue Chen thought about exploring, he felt his divine sense extend like tentacles. This is divine consciousness. It feels like there are no dead corners or distances, and it's everywhere. No, there is still a distance. He tried, and at this point, his divine consciousness could extend up to 200 meters and it would be over. This is also good. Finally, the foundation has been built, and there will always be a strong day in the future. Now let's take a look at what the hell this is in our minds. Yue Chen's divine consciousness explored the scroll and unconsciously refined it. Although it was only a slight touch of breath, it was enough for him to know what was written on it. The Heavens Good and Evil List number 39, the Heavens. This word is not something that ordinary magic weapons can use. Think about the red star Noah, a big planet that dares not call itself a realm, let alone a heaven. I just don't know the origin of this list of good and evil in the heavens. While Yue Chen was pondering deeply, a voice suddenly appeared in his mind. Kid, what are you thinking about? Even if ordinary people see this seat, hurry up and worship it. Yue Chen was first startled, then heard a black line all over his head, and this thick aura of middle and second energy rushed towards him. Kid, how dare you ignore me when I call you? The voice fell silent upon seeing Yue Chen and rang out again. Yue Chen regained his senses, pursed his lips, and secretly rolled his eyes. According to the law of time travel, he had determined that the one making the sound was the scroll floating in the sea of his consciousness. This scroll has been following him for several years without any movement, and I didn't see any bad behavior from it when building the foundation just now. This indicates that either it does not have the ability to act at this time, or it cannot act for some reason. Regardless of which one is good for Yue Chen. After understanding these things, Yue Chen said calmly, Who are you again? What are you doing in my sea of knowledge? Oh, kid, aren't you foolish enough to know who this seat is? Listen carefully, this seat is the greatest innate spiritual treasure of all heavens and all realms, the list of good and evil in all heavens and all realms. Why, do you know now and be afraid? I'm afraid of you, ghost. Yue Chen sneered and snorted, What are you afraid of? If you have the ability, come and hit me. If you have the ability, leave my sea of consciousness. You're such a kid. When you ask for my seat in the future. Humph. I have everything here, everything I know, everything I can do. I just won't tell you. The Heaven Good and Evil list was infuriated by Yue Chen's words. Listen to it, Yue Chen's eyes gurgled and said, Oh, it's a boy. I have eyes but don't know anything about it. You have a lot of adults. Why bother with my little doll? Don't you think it's shameless to talk about it? As a last resort, Yue Chen picked up a skill he hadn't used for a long time and started selling it cute. Who would have thought he was only 6 or 7 years old now? It is estimated that he has never encountered a master who indulges in coquettishness with it. The list of good and evil in the heavens was shaken and he remained silent for a long time. After a while, it stuttered and said, "Cough, well, considering that you are now a little doll, adults don't care about little people. My name is Luo Tian, and in the future, you will call me Lord Luo Tian." Upon hearing the title of Zhong Heir, Yue Chen suppressed his smile and said, "Yes, yes, Lord Luo Tian. Can you now introduce to me the wonderful uses of this heaven good and evil list?" Luo Tian felt comfortable all over when he shouted at him, and he immediately looked up and straightened his chest. He proudly said, "There are so many wonderful uses in this room, please listen carefully." From Luo Tian's mouth, Yue Chen realized that when he died, a mouthful of blood sprayed from his heart onto the list of good and evil in the heavens, which led to the recognition of the master of the list at that time. The death of a cultivator is not considered death, and only when his soul is scattered can it be called falling. Although Yue Chen was immortal at that time, the list of good and evil in the heavens was an innate spiritual treasure that could protect his soul from extinction. Also, due to the urgent need for energy to repair oneself in the heavens good and evil list, the spiritual energy in the Dharma world was weak in the previous life. To repair oneself, the heavens good and evil list would have to wait for a monkey year and a horse month. Unable to do anything, Luo Tian could only use his last remaining strength to open the space crack and cross to the Red Star cultivation realm with the more dusty spirit, and then fell asleep. It wasn't until Yue Chen began practicing that he could absorb some spiritual energy to repair himself. It wasn't until Yue Chen built the foundation that Luo Tian's true spirit woke up under the strong spiritual energy. Otherwise, with Yue Chen's top talent, he would have built the foundation long ago. However, nowadays Luo Tian's memory has decreased significantly and his functions are also incomplete. In its limited memory, it only remembers the previous owner fighting with others, being besieged, and the owner self-destructing fiercely, his soul completely shattered, and his true spirit destroyed. It took advantage of its owner's self-destructive power to break through the space and escape, and now it doesn't know how far it is from the original world. By chance, the list of good and evil in the heavens was recognized by Yue Chen. Now, Luo Tian only hopes that Yue Chen can grow up and help him take revenge when he becomes strong. Yue Chen said solemnly, "Don't worry, if you can treat me sincerely, when I have the ability in the future, I will definitely avenge your former master." "What other function do you have now?" Luo Tian thought for a moment and said, "The list of good and evil in the heavens is similar to the system described in your previous world's novels. The kindness and malice of others towards you can be converted into good and evil values, and good and evil values can be exchanged for various items. Good values can be exchanged for beneficial pills, righteous techniques, and treasure materials, such as detoxification pills and Xuanhuan merit qi, etc. Those with opposite negative values can be exchanged for the magic treasures, elixirs, and techniques of the demon and ghost sect, such as poison pills and red lotus industry fire. If they are elixirs, magic treasures, and divine materials that can be used by both immortals and demons, then naturally they can be exchanged for both good and evil values. As for the other functions, I haven't even fixed them, and having them means I don't have them, so I can't play them anymore. When I fix them 50%, you can take me out to fight against the enemy, and then you can showcase my abilities." Yue Chen was already stunned by the sound, and now he had only one thought. "It's gone." In the blink of an eye, he pinched his thigh again, afraid it was in a dream. Fortunately, it wasn't a dream. He quickly asked, "Can all of these be exchanged?" Luo Tian proudly said, "That's natural. As long as you have enough good and evil values, you can exchange anything. And the things you have exchanged can be exchanged directly next time without refreshing, just. Upon hearing this, Yue Chen had a bad premonition in his heart and said, just what? I just suffered too much damage and now I just barely wake up, unable to even appear. If you want to exchange something, you can only wait for me to repair it for a while. Yue Chen was dumbfounded. Damn it, I finally got a golden finger, but it still can't be used. This luck is out of nowhere. How can you repair it? Yue Chen said dejectedly. As long as you practice hard and diligently, I can also absorb spiritual energy on my own and slowly repair it. Moreover, when I absorb spiritual energy, it will also drive you to cultivate automatically, so we complement each other. If you want to repair it quickly, you need to absorb more good and evil values. You need to grasp this on your own. Don't be like me, the previous owner, who trapped myself in an irreversible situation to create evil values. Luo Tian said sorrowfully. Chapter 9. 6 Yang Li Huo Zhi. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The list of good and evil in the heavens has been severely damaged, making it difficult to repair. Yue Chen pondered deeply, and Luo Tian hung a big carrot in front of him waiting for him to gnaw on. He had to work harder to cultivate and strive to repair the list of good and evil in the heavens as soon as possible. As for the value of good and evil, we can only act according to the situation and go with the flow. Thinking of this, he also perked up. He had just built the foundation and hadn't carefully checked it yet. At first glance, he stinks. Although he is an immaculate body, he has also eaten ordinary things for 6 or 7 years, and there are always some impurities deposited on his body. Now, as soon as he builds the foundation, these impurities are discharged from the body, leaving him covered in dirt. Yue Chen quickly stood up, opened the door of the side hall, and rushed towards the kitchen. Yuejia was helping him protect the Dharma outside the palace gate. Seeing him come out, he was overjoyed and said, Brother Chen, have you successfully built the foundation? Smell again. What's this smell? It smells so bad. How come you're like this? Yu Chenxing said helplessly, Third sister, please help me get some hot water. I need to take a shower. Okay. I'll go right now. You wait at the bathtub, haha. Yuejia couldn't help but burst into laughter as he looked at him more and more. After Yue Chen finished washing up and dressing up, he came out. Yuejia had already set the food on the table. Although he has built a foundation and can skip meals for 1 or 2 days, he is only 6 or 7 years old, and it is impossible for him to skip meals during his physical growth. If only there were Lingmi and Lingkai, I wonder if Shenxiao Immortal Sect has Lingmi to eat. Yue Chen thought to himself. At the dinner table, Wang Bing and Yuejia once again congratulated Yue Chen on building the foundation. Wang Bing envied him and said, Junior brother Yu is really talented. He built the foundation at a young age. Compared to you, I really live up to being a dog. Yue Chen shook his head and said, Senior brother Wang, don't be discouraged. When you and I return to the Immortal Sect, we will be taught the true Dharma. There are various miraculous elixirs, but we still worry about not being able to build a foundation. Wang Bing didn't know what was on his mind and remained silent for a moment. Yuejia also smiled and said, Brother Chen, why did you make such a mess when building the foundation? Because she had not yet started practicing and was not aware of the hidden dangers involved, that's why she asked this question. Yue Chen rolled his eyes and said, Don't laugh at me. When you build the foundation in the future, it will definitely be even dirtier than me. Yuejia stuck out his tongue and stopped talking. After finishing their meal, the 3 of them went to practice and rest without mentioning anything. It has been 7 or 8 days since Taoist Tai Lin helped the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda suppress Yuejia. As he watched the fire ruler oscillate endlessly, it had shrunk to 1 foot, no longer emitting fire rain, and the magma had disappeared completely. His bottle of heavenly tonifying pill was also about to bottom out. Glancing at the last 3 pills at the bottom of the bottle, Taoist Tai Lin exerted a fierce force and took out 2 heavenly tonifying pills and stuffed them into his mouth. With a sudden force, the magic poured like a river into the purple thunder tower of the divine sky. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and one person hugged the thick purple thunder and fell suddenly, hitting the fire ruler. The fire ruler stumbled and fell to the ground without any movement. The magic treasure Yuanling of the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Tower is also an old martial artist. In order to escape with a fireproof ruler, it transformed into a lightning net, wrapped in the ruler, and flew in front of Taoist Tai Lin, saying, "Quickly drip blood to recognize the master." Taoist Tai Lin just swallowed 2 Tianbu pills in one gulp, and now he has plenty of energy. Upon hearing this, he quickly bit his tongue and sprayed his essence and blood onto the fire ruler. Then he quickly sat cross-legged and used the Heavenly Thunder Treasure Refining Technique to refine the fire ruler. The Heavenly Thunder Treasure Refining Technique is a unique treasure refining technique of the Divine Thunder Peak. Only by practicing the Divine Sky Thunder Technique can one use it. This treasure refining technique is strong and domineering, advancing forward like a destructive force, and has the best effect on subdued treasures. If one refuses to refine, they will die. All things have spirits, and it is easy to achieve pure yang after experiencing countless difficulties. Which magic weapon is willing to die? It's better to live than to die. Only by living can we have a future. Moreover, this fire ruler is naturally cultivated to achieve pure yang, and it is not refined by the dragon sacrifice. It has been 3 days since Taoist Tai Lin refined this fire ruler roughly. At this moment, the fire ruler was only the size of a palm, lying quietly on the palm of Taoist Tai Lin, with 5 cloud seal words engraved on it. 6 yang leaving fire rulers. This treasure originally grew in the acupoint of the earth's heart, and was forged and burned by the 6 yang fire in the earth's lungs for thousands of years, achieving the manifestation of the heavenly mechanism during the pure yang period, thus obtaining this name. Later, after another encounter, he was discovered by the dragon. By chance, he was recognized as the master by the dragon. Yang Li Huo Zhi felt unwilling, but even after being seriously injured, he felt helpless. Since the arrival of the 6 Yang Li Huo ruler, the dragon has been arrogant and ruthless, creating evil deeds everywhere. It happened that he was met by the wandering immortal Jingyu, who despised evil as his enemy. From then on, one person and one demon engaged in a fierce battle, vowing to slay one side. Later on, both sides perished together, each losing their own treasure and continuing to fight for thousands of years. Now both have fallen into the hands of Taoist Tai Lin. Taoist Tai Lin happens to have a thunder-fire constitution, with 2 magic weapons, 1 thunder and 1 fire. It's really a matter of timing and fate. Taoist Tai Lin reached out and brushed his hand, then took out a treasure box from the storage ring and included the 6 Yang Li Huo ruler in it. Nowadays, the magic treasure Yuanling of the 6 Yang Li Huo Zhi has been severely damaged and needs to rest well. This treasure box has its own space, abundant spiritual energy, and can store treasures. It is a unique masterpiece of the sect's treasure refining peak, and one must master the peak refining technique, Rui treasure refining technique, only then can we refine a treasure box of this size with its own space. The treasure box of Taoist Tai Lin is already one of the finest among the exquisite items. Who would have thought that Taoist Tai Lin had a beautiful confidant who was the pearl in the palm of the peak master of the refining treasure peak? Originally, these pure young treasures needed to be stored and nurtured in the elixir field for the fastest recovery. However, Taoist Tai Lin's elixir field now has a flying sword, the red flame sword, which is constantly being refined. Taoist Tai Lin and the red flame sword have intertwined lives, so he naturally hopes that it will achieve pure yang early, take off its treasure body, and have no disasters or calamities from now on. After finishing all of this, Tai Lin Dao stood up from the ground and looked at the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Tower on the side. The disciple of Shenlei Peak, Tai Lin, has seen the senior. Can the senior appear to see him? Taoist Tai Lin bowed and asked. Ku. As the words fell, ripples rose in the void, and a purple cloud-patterned Taoist robe flashed. The divine sky purple thunder pagoda's magical treasure, Yuanling, has a thin and slender body, a towering crown, and a body full of Taoist charm. Its purple pupils are as clear and dazzling as amethyst, shining with a chilling aura of sharpness. Under the seemingly calm eye waves, there is a sharp and fake-like gaze hidden. Paired with a straight and strong face, which is as deep as a carved wheel, it appears even more imposing. My name is Lei Che. Pagoda Yuanling's words were concise and precise, with words as precious as gold. Taoist Tai Lin was not surprised. Since the loss of the Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda, various information about this pure yang magic treasure has been circulating in the sect, and it has been high on the task list, hoping that sect disciples can bring back this Shenzong treasure when they go out for training. Thinking about the rewards that can be obtained by bringing this pure yang pagoda back to the sect, Taoist Tai Lin couldn't help but feel a surge of passion in his heart. Without it, it is really too rich, at least it can support him to be promoted to the realm of the primordial god Dharma body. It can be said that being a primordial god is safe for Taoist Tai Lin. As for the ownership of this pure yang pagoda after returning to the sect, it is impossible for him to escape even with the things in his Tai Lin's hands. The Shenxiao Purple Thunder Pagoda was originally the first head of the Shenlei Peak in history, and the Taoist of Tai Lin was also one of the first candidates for the next position. With this pure yang pagoda, his position as the next head of the Shenlei Peak is as firm as a nail. Now, the first Miaozhu Zhenren of Shenlifeng wants to go further, only waiting for the next successor to enter the realm of the primordial god, and he can abdicate and go to meditation. Taoist Tai Lin asked, "Senior, do you want to go back to the tower for meditation or go out with the younger generation?" "Meditation," replied the pagoda spirit, and then a flash disappeared. Taoist Tai Lin waved his hand and put away the divine sky purple thunder pagoda. With the collection of two pure yang treasures, the illusion space inside the mountain disappeared, and the space inside the stone gate was restored to its original form. I saw a cave about 20 zhang high and 40 zhang wide in place, with its walls adorned with night pearls, as bright as day. The place where the dragon lies is piled up with various gemstones and spirit stones. It seems that this dragon has a rich bloodline and is about to transform into a dragon, with a habit of liking shiny things like the dragon clan. There is only a faint fishy smell inside the cave. After all, the dragon has been dead for thousands of years, and there is a pile of divine materials and demon bones casually placed in the corner. It is believed that the demon clan does not refine tools, and these things are also useless to the dragon. Collecting these things is only for exchange with people, so they are not valued. Nowadays, these things are already cheap for Taoist Tai Lin. He took out an empty Qiankuan bag and directly carried all the things inside the cave. He didn't even let go of the night pearl on the wall, which was not useful for cultivators. However, his good disciples and family are still in this world. After completing these tasks, Taoist Tai Lin walked out of the stone gate and offered the red flame sword, only to see a flash of light from the red flame sword. Bang long, with a loud bang, the entire cave collapsed, and Taoist Tai Lin didn't delay either. He used his escape technique and headed straight towards the ground. He has been away for more than half a month now. Although he has provided his disciple with self-defense measures, he is still a small person and his heart is not so at ease. Fortunately, not far from the mountainside is the Taoist temple. Taoist Tai Lin's divine sense swept away, frowned, and walked directly with his breath, appearing in front of the Taoist temple. At this moment, Wang Bing's scolding came from the Taoist temple. "Get out of here. Go back and tell that slut that if you dare to come to my Taoist temple again, you will make her beg for death and survival." Wang Bing was filled with resentment and wished he could go down the mountain and kill his unfilial and disrespectful nephew, making him blind and his conscience eaten by the dog. Listening to that slut in everything has made his original legitimate son inferior to even a servant, causing his great-great-nephew and grandson to not be like a person. Poor little child, if it weren't for having a loyal servant, they might have eaten even their bones. Thinking of this, Wang Bing was even more furious in his heart. He kicked one of the evil slaves 3 feet away and rolled over to a person with a bone roll. The corner of the blue robe flipped over, and Wang Bingding Qing immediately knelt down and said, "Senior, I have nothing to do with my disciple. Please forgive me, Senior." Taoist Tai Lin nodded lightly and said, "Get up, don't kneel easily. This is your family matter. I just want to remind you that as a member of the Immortal Sect, there is no one who can be bullied." Wang Bing's heart shook and he quickly said, "Yes, Senior, I will handle these matters as soon as possible." Taoist Tai Lin nodded and walked into the temple, only to see Yue Chen peeking out in front of the side hall. Chapter 10. Reasons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yue Chen was protecting Yue Chen outside the side hall when he saw Taoist Tai Lin enter. His eyes lit up and he rushed towards him like a swallow in the forest. "Master Tai Lin, you're back now. Both Chen and I miss you so much." Yue Chen blinked her big eyes and said crisply. Taoist Tai Lin touched her bun and kindly said, "I've been away for so many days. Are you too good? Does Chen'er practice well?" Yue Chen nodded his head vigorously and said, "You are obedient. Brother Chen is really impressive. He has already built a foundation, even more impressive than Taoist Wang." Taoist Tai Lin was surprised for a moment, and his divine sense reached out to Yue Chen. He nodded in satisfaction and said, "Not bad. I'll wait for you to check and examine." After that, he stepped into the side hall. In the side hall, Yue Chen was completing the 9th Great Zhou Tian and slowly finishing his work. When he opened his eyes, he saw Taoist Tai Lin looking at him with a smile on his face. Yue Chen was immediately overjoyed and quickly stood up. He rushed to Taoist Tai Lin and coquettishly pinched his sleeve, saying in a milky voice, "Master, why have you been away for so long? You've worried us so much. Have we finished the matter?" Taoist Tai Lin raised his head slightly and touched his smooth chin, saying, "As a master, it's easy to catch a horse. Do you have to worry about this little devil?" After a moment's pause, he said again, "How could there be a fork in the road when the foundation is built so quickly?" Yue Chen obediently shook his head and said, "There was no problem. Within a few days after you left, my true qi cultivation was complete. Later, when I practiced, I naturally built a foundation, and everything went smoothly." After saying this, he also felt a bit proud. However, regarding the matter of the list of good and evil in the heavens, Yue Chen did not mention it. After all, it is related to the past life, and it is said that Taoist Tai Lin cannot help. It is better not to mention it, as it only adds to the troubles. Taoist Tai Lin tapped his forehead and said, "You can be proud of just a little achievement. Remember that practicing is like sailing against the current. If you don't advance, you will retreat. In the future, be good at cultivating and don't slack off, wasting your talent." To put it this way, Taoist Tai Lin is also quite satisfied in his heart. This disciple has a natural talent, intelligence, diligence, and exceptional aptitude at a young age. If he is good at cultivation, the next generation of true disciples will definitely have his place. Taoist Tai Lin was also afraid of his arrogance, so he scolded him. Yue Chen is not really a child of 6 or 7 years old. He knows that his master is for his good, so he is not sad. Instead, he is happy and says, "Master, I will work hard to cultivate in the future and not let my master down." Taoist Tai Lin nodded in satisfaction. On the other side, Wang Bing drove away a group of evil slaves, closed the door, and came in to pay respects to Taoist Tai Lin. "Can the matter be handled properly?" Taoist Tai Lin asked. "Senior, they are all servants of my disciple's nephew. I want to go down the mountain to completely solve this matter," Wang Bing replied. "Is it so troublesome? What's going on?" "Senior brother Wang." Yue Chen was puzzled and asked curiously. When the evil slave came to cause trouble, he was practicing, so he didn't know what was happening. Hey, this matter is a long story. When junior brother asks, I'll just cut it short. Wang Bing sighed and continued, when I was young, my family was poor. I followed my master up the mountain to cultivate early on. There was only one elder brother in my family who flattered my mother. I felt guilty, and from then on, some of my surplus wealth was used to subsidize my family. Life gradually improved. My disciple's older brother only got a son in his late 40s, which inevitably spoils him a bit. When he got married, he married a stronger wife. I don't know if it was due to poor feng shui or something. When I came to my disciple's nephew's house, he only had one son for many years. The niece's wife was strong by nature, and her grandchildren were cowardly and timid, obeying his mother's orders. Marrying a wife is the daughter of his mentor, who is gentle and virtuous. However, within 2 years, his mentor passed away due to illness, and his family's fortune also declined. At this point, Wang Bing shook his head and said, my disciple's grandniece's daughter-in-law was pregnant at the time and was on the verge of giving birth. Upon hearing this news, she immediately launched a rebellion and left. Before the filial piety period had passed, his mother married his niece's daughter to become his stepmother. As the saying goes, having a stepmother leads to having a stepfather. This statement is absolutely true. It's despicable that the stepmother has malicious intentions and is afraid that her eldest son will compete for family property with her children, deceiving them. This will make it extremely difficult for her great-nephew and grandson to live. If it weren't for an old servant, they might not have grown up. Wang Bing continued with resentment, until my great-nephew and grandson were 6 years old, life was really unbearable. The old servant couldn't come up the mountain to beg for his disciple. At that time, the disciple went down the mountain to scold his niece and daughter-in-law, and brought my great-nephew and grandson to stay at my Taoist temple for 2 years. He improved a bit. A while ago, my disciple fell ill and his health became even worse. When they saw that my disciple was old and unbearable, they directly took my great-nephew and grandson away and never let him go up the mountain again. Wang Bing sighed. These days, only the old servant brings some rice, flour, oil, and grain every month. I only know that he is still not doing well at home. The disciple is now doing well and wants to take over the child again. Yue Chen also felt uncomfortable upon hearing this. Although he was an orphan in his previous life, he grew up safely in an orphanage. In this life, his parents have loved him dearly. Although his family is poor, he has not suffered much. It is hard to imagine how a tiny child grew up so big under the influence of his family. Yue Chen nodded hurriedly on the side and said, Taoist, hurry up and go. If you go late, they will definitely bully someone again. Now that Master Tai Lin is back, you don't have to worry about us anymore. Taoist Tai Lin nodded and said, not bad, you go ahead. Wang Bing bowed his hand and said, yes, I'm leaving now. After that, he quickly left the temple to find his great-nephew and grandson. Wang Bing rushed slowly, but he was also one step late. After several generations of development, the Wang family can now be called a wealthy family. At the entrance, there is a huge brick and stone wall, painted with symbols of blessings, longevity, and happiness such as Lingji and Buddha's hand. Turning around the wall, you will find a winding corridor, and the stones below the steps will fill the corridor. There are 2 or 3 small houses above, one bright and 2 dark, each with beds and chairs that are folded together. There is another small door from the inner room, and outside is the backyard, where there are large pear blossoms and banana trees. A gap suddenly opened under the backyard wall, creating a clear spring. The ditch was only about a foot long, and it was poured into the wall. It then circled around the edge of the steps and reached the front yard, spiraling out from under the bamboo. At this moment, in front of a small room in the backyard, there were several servants standing. One of them was standing on a child who looked like he was 7 or 8 years old, cursing and saying, "Damn it, little bastard. I got kicked." Today, I can't beat you to death. After saying this, he lifted his foot and prepared to step down again. Oh my! Who dares to hit me? Suddenly, the evil servant bent his knee and threw himself on the ground, unable to get up for a long time. As soon as Wang Bing came in, he saw the evil slave deceiving others. He quickly flicked his fingers and shot a burst of true energy on the slave's knee, saving the child. Grandfather. Woo-woo. This child is none other than Wang Bing's great-nephew and grandson, Wang Ming. Wang Ming is not tall, very thin and weak, as if he would collapse in a gust of wind. His face is waxen yellow, and his big eyes are now filled with tears. He is wearing a dusty short shirt. If it weren't for his good looks and clean face, he would be no different from a little beggar at this moment. Watching Wang Ming like this, Wang Bing felt a sharp pain in his heart. This was his beloved grandson who had been in pain for 2 years. It was easy for him to raise his body, and after only 2 or 3 months, he had become so thin. This family of livestock, it all depends on how good he is, and how he becomes even more bullied by a child. Wang Bing's anger was raging in his heart, and he could no longer hold back. With genuine anger in his mouth, he roared, "Wang Nan, you beast, get out of here." His voice oscillated and spread throughout the entire mansion. Wang Ming widened his eyes in surprise. At this moment, he was like in a dream, unable to believe that his grandfather's body had really improved, and he had become several decades younger and rejuvenated. After all, last time when Lin Bo went to deliver rice and noodles, he came back and said that his grandfather might not be doing well. At that time, he even secretly cried a few times. I could hear Wang Bing's angry roar, and the thought of the fierce faces I would face in a moment filled me with fear. He tightly grasped Wang Bing's sleeve, trying his best not to tremble. Wang Bingji knew he was afraid, so he reached out and grabbed his little hand. He couldn't help but feel another pain in his heart. Other children had thin skin and tender flesh, which was not like his poor obedient grandson. His small paws were thin and skinny, and his palms were even calluses. Damn bitch. Wang Bing felt resentful in his heart and insisted on teaching them a lesson today. At this moment, a noisy sound of footsteps came, and before anyone arrived, the sound of "Who is shouting loudly in my mansion?" I've eaten the ambition of leopard bile, fell, and a group of people entered the courtyard. The person in front of him was a man dressed in crimson silk, with a white face and no need for hair. He was almost 30 years old, and this person was his nephew Wang Nan. Following behind was an elderly woman in her late 70s, dressed in a red Fu character shirt. This was his niece and daughter.in.law, Yue Chen. Supporting the Yue family was a beautiful little daughter.in.law in her 20s, dressed in emerald green brocade, who had a heart like a snake and scorpion. This was his grandniece and daughter.in.law, Xiao Yu. Later, a group of servants led 2 children aged 5 or 6 to come, who were a pair of dragon and phoenix twins born to Xiao Yu. Humph. You're such a domineering family. With such a big family, even the eldest son and legitimate grandson can let the evil slaves humiliate them recklessly. I'm afraid even the ancestors will be so angry that they will come to life. Wang Bing sneered. Are you the second grandfather? Aren't you about to? It seemed like Wang Nan knew he had said the wrong thing, so he quickly closed his mouth. Wang Bing rolled his eyes and said, I don't have such unfilial and disrespectful children and grandchildren like you. After speaking, he looked at you and said, my niece and daughter.in.law, I won't talk nonsense to you either. Ming'er has been bullied at home, and I don't believe you don't know. As he spoke, he pulled Wang Ming's small hand to the person and said, look, this is the eldest son and legitimate grandson of the Wang family. The Wang family can't even afford to raise a child, it's really a big joke. After speaking, he pointed to Xiao Yu and said, if you give up this poisonous woman today, everything will be done. Otherwise, I will show you what family law is. Not to mention how the Wang family is causing chaos, only to say that Yue Chen in the temple is pulling on Taoist Tai Lin's sleeve and looking at him eagerly. Master, have you ever gotten any good treasures after going here for so long? Let me open my eyes to you. Now that I have built a foundation, I haven't even had a magical tool.